Oh, chat. Can we hear me? Can we hear me now? I was just saying the timer says 0 on my screen. I feel like that means that we're ready to go. What do you guys think? Get going? Good? Guess can't hear me. Can oh, we need Snoopy here. we
Well,
need
I'm here,
we need
Wait,
his
wait,
cam
wait,
on. There
wait,
we go.
wait.
There we
Yo.
go, Snoopy. We had Soulscape and Snoopy spot for a second. It was all over the place. There we go. Right, welcome in, chat. So, obviously, you guys know what's going on here today. We've got the Feral Druid discussion. This was kind of born a little bit out of, you've seen Sloot doing a lot of discussions and stuff with different specs, and I thought, you know what? That was really great. I think it's time for another one. So, here we are. I thought I'd assemble some of the best Feral Druids in the world right now for multiple different forms of content, and then we have me as well. Yeah, welcome into the show. Future episodes won't necessarily focus on Feral Druid, but we will, potentially be covering other topics and, let me know and stuff in future about what you guys might want to see. But please ask your questions in chat because I will be looking out for them at the end of the show or like the last 20 minutes, half an hour or so. We will do a Q&A. So if you guys want to leave any questions that you have for me, for the guests about the subject matter, you might want to ask, things like when is Maystine finally going to start streaming, things like that, But yeah, and a last little bit there is any donations that come in during this stream tonight will go directly to Thera, a charity which works globally on protecting wild large cats, so making sure that we're not destroying their habitats and keeping the feral druid dream alive, not only in game but also out of the game as well, and yeah, in the wild. So that's about it from me. I just wanted to kind of throw that in, and then yeah, let's meet our guests. So we got Snoopy here, we got Robo, we got Soullscape, and we got Maystine. Now, Snoopy, do you just kind of want to start off and just kind of tell the people what you're about, what your content's about?
Yeah, sure. So I play Feral Druid, and I queue arena pretty much 5 hours a day, spam queuing. And that's kind of what I do. I just play arena all day. That's the
Wow,
Feral.
only 5 hours, dude. That's pretty casual. Only 5 hours a day.
I'm a casual. I don't know. It is what it is.
And Robo, what about you, my friend?
Yep, I'm Robo, nice cat mask man. I've been raiding Prog for, I don't know, last 12, since Wrath pretty much was when Feral first started becoming good, and raided with Honestly, which is an OCE guild, front page, like top 20, so been up there. I'm kind of like semi-casual now, but still planning to raid hard in Shadowlands, relatively.
Okay, excellent. And Soulscape, what about you, my friend?
I wouldn't say pretty casual now with the Feral, but I played every single expansion. Been cutting edge since Wrath. Well, since cutting edge started in with Garrosh back in Pandaria. But nowadays, I try to sneak my Feral into Mythic raiding every time I get the chance. We just killed Nazoth. Well, before for cutting edge recently, I play as Feral. Top orange parses, down the drain. Not that there's many of us, but there are tons of us. Dozens.
Literally dozens.
And then Snupy here has inspired me to try to go Glad for the first time ever on my Feral.
Hell yeah,
ambitious. I want to see
Once,
it.
one and done, because I just want that mount, but you guys know me. My channel is mostly about world PvP, though. We just go out there, we solo them in, and try to survive for as long as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And Macy, what about you, my friend?
So hey, I'm Maystine, doing mostly PV content, focus on Mythic Plus. Just doing raiding to get gear, getting some passes, but nothing crazy, no top world or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say your Mythic Plus is top world, so that's good.
Yeah,
you got that
I'm
going.
Focus on Mythic Plus, and yeah, that's about it.
Hey, great stuff. Right, well, to kick things off, I mean, I thought we're well underway now with the beta, and I mean, we technically should be playing the game now, so it's kind of fascinating that we're actually not, and that there has been a delay, and we'll kind of wait and see how things are going to, how this extended time for Blizzard is going to shape up for them, and what's going to kind of be the result of that. But what do you guys think? Has our feedback so far from the Feral Druid community, like, do you think that has been successful? And have we seen a positive progression of Feral? Has it gotten better during this beta period, or, not so much? And maybe we'll start off with you, Robo, if you just want to jump on that one, dude.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think feral community is a little bit segmented in that some people think it's a little bit too hard, others think it's not complex enough. I think some of the big changes that were asked for were change Sabertooth, so it's not like a one button finisher. So that's been changed. That's been well received. I think Moonfire's going well now. I think in terms of the Berserk changes as well, asking for a bit more like burst cooldown, that's been addressed as well. Some parts of the community were asking for Blood Talons to get reworked because people were saying that casting a healing ability to proc your damage was a bit weird, and so that's been changed as well. So I think those are some of the big changes that were requested, and they happened like relatively early on in the beta. So I think Blizzard's definitely listened to us. Whether the solutions they've given have actually resolved the problems or not, or just created new ones, is a bit of a depends who you ask.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? So we've like you touch on people, we've had the change to Blood Talons, we've had the change to Berserk, and these were things that people asked for. Like, this is what we have asked for, and yet we still have people, myself included, saying, well, now Berserk is kind of weird because actually you feel energy starved during that Berserk period. It doesn't feel quite that strong, and then you look at Blood Talons, and yeah, okay, now we don't cast Regrowth anymore during it, but you take it into Mythic Plus, or you take it into Raid, and it's just so simplistic. And then you take it into something like Mythic Plus, and suddenly it just feels really, I don't know, like it doesn't gel with that type of environment. So now we've it's the butterfly effect, I guess, in a sense, where we've changed a few little knobs, a few little dials, and then we've had this, massive shockwave in the gameplay now. So, I mean, do you think we're in a better state as a result? Is there anyone that thinks that we are?
Damage wise, it's incredible increase to flat around the board. But gameplay wise, it's the original question was people wanting to get more into Feral and how they perceive it and their perception. I can't say it's gotten better, but it's just we're neutral. I feel like it's just staying neutral for quite some time. And at the beginning of expansions, people are so keen to follow those videos that say that this is the top melee DPS, this is the top PvP classes in the game. And when they see that, people follow it. And if nobody talks about ferals, so I don't know if you remember the opening to Bellular's when they first announced all the changes.
Yeah.
In that one title, it said, and it irked me, I actually made a response video. It said, like the worst class or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was like, ugh.
Just heavy criticism. What about you, Snupy? How's it been? Because I mean, I know that you've been having a whale of a time in the PvP scene, absolutely blasting on that. So,
well, so before they changed, like the first week of beta was kind of rough, but then they changed the Berserk, I think, and also there was a legendary called Fearful Symmetry, which gave you 3 comp points after using Fury, which allowed for like a double bite build where you bite, and then you would get 5 comp points like after the bite again. So you could do bite, and it was really fun. But then they nerfed the legendary, and then they also nerfed Berserk, like the energy wise. So then that build was kind of ruined, right? So the beta doesn't feel as good anymore for me, but it's still fine.
Okay.
Like it still works. It can still do like a bite build that does big damage, but yeah, the bite build that felt really, really strong was kind of ruined by the legendary nerf.
Has there been anything that's taken its place? Has there been any recovery for that, or are you still kind of trying to figure out what to do now and where to go from there?
So I'm still doing the same build, so it's like the same thing, just like a bit worse.
Right.
And I haven't really found like a new thing. But to be fair, I haven't played too much beta recently because like the arenas have been scuffed, and you just disconnected things. So
Right. So it's like been
there might be a
difficult to
build.
actually connect and stuff and actually like try it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an issue.
Okay.
But overall, like Feral feels strong, like on the beta, and I think the feedback has been like fairly well received. But I really wish that they didn't change Berserk, or like they took away the energy benefit, right? I think so.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Fair Full Symmetry nerf was pretty bad for PP, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But overall, still pretty good though.
Okay. Macy, do you have anything to add, brother?
Well, the new Berserk is better than the old one, but yeah, the not having the energy cost reduction really sucks, I feel like. And I have a few things that I really don't like about it, is that you feel like you waste combo point during Berserk. I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm the only one, but
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't know. And if you add the new Blood Talon on top of that, it's a mess for me. Like I really don't know what to do sometimes. So it doesn't really feel good gameplay wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it also kind of ties it to becoming a single target cooldown. Whereas before it was like, well, you can use your energy on whatever you want. So you have a bit more variety in cleave AoE type stuff. You can at least swipe spell or something. Whereas now it's basically, well, you're only empowering your rakes and shreds, which is like maybe 2 target cleave max.
I think, yeah, like I kind of agree and I kind of disagree. Like for me, obviously, I mean, I do raid. I'll be honest. I'm 1.9k like arena rating, so I'm not really a PvP guy yet. I'm gonna learn from Snupy in next
get there?
expansion, but we'll get there. But yeah, like my focus is obviously very Mythic Plus heavy, and I didn't find Berserk was ever useful in AoE previously because when you got
Yeah.
to big AoE, like you're either going single, like 1 to 3 targets where you would make use of Berserk and it felt good there. But as soon as you got kind of over that threshold, suddenly you're basically just swiping and Primal Wrathing, which is very like energy efficient, I guess would be the word. So I never really found a place for Berserk in AoE then. The only time I see it being useful now is with Frenzy Band, where you could technically pop Berserk, spam rakes on like spread your rakes and then swipe, and technically your swipe damage will be adding to that bleed, right? So like, but then it's really scuffed, like you're saying, Robo, like you're only really increasing damage if you're shredding your rake there, so it doesn't really like work on the AoE side of things. I mean, I think Berserk should just get changed completely. Instead of being called Berserk, it should just be called like slightly aroused, because it really isn't, you don't really feel like you're going in that Berserk manner. It just kind of feels like, I don't know, to me there's still those energy issues that are a problem there. But I mean, do you guys have anything that you think could fix those? Like, do you think are we closer to the goal now with Berserk and Blood Talons, or have we moved further away from it?
I
So
think like
you look happy to.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Simi. Go ahead.
yeah, I think before I mean, they buffed Berserk and then they nerfed by taking away the energy benefit. Like before the energy nerf, I think it was really good for PP. It felt super well, and like it like made sense like in my opener, and like it felt good. But then after the nerf, it like doesn't make sense anymore. Because you have like so many things you want to do, and like too little energy to do it. So
Is that from a PvP
it's
perspective though?
yeah
Like,
yeah
yeah.
yeah for sure. Like now, last time I played beta, like you open up and you want to bite, like you can do like 3-4 bites like in the Berserk, but you keep like having to wait for the energy to go to 50, and it's kind of sad because you just want to spam the bite, right, and just pump.
Yeah.
But
Okay, the problem I can see
Yeah.
now is that Blizzard's gonna take this. If for whatever, if they are watching out in the ether somewhere, they're gonna take this and they're gonna go, hey, you know what we should do? We should remove the pooling of Ferocious Bite, and they're just gonna like nerf Ferocious
Oh,
Bite.
no. That's
yeah, okay, I'm gonna take away what I just said here.
Yeah. We need to scrap that.
so.
But it's an issue though. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an issue for sure.
Go ahead, Sol.
Yeah, I had a comment like on one of my YouTube, like my first Feral video for Shadowlands. Like you made a comment as well. Like people think it's not difficult enough, and I can't tell if they're thinking for themselves or the rest of the people trying to play Feral. And don't get me wrong, I was attracted to Feral for PvE because it was difficult. If you did it right, your DPS was above par. If you performed right, but what attracted people the most to Feral was there was repercussions for messing up your rotation. The repercussions for the new Blood Talons, if you happen to double up the wrong ability and you just wasted 40 energy because now you missed your Blood Talons, you have to go back around the bend, that's repercussions for the new Blood Talons. And before, you had more control of the Blood Talons, and it was a lot more fun, in my opinion. But people don't like Sabretooth. I don't know why. And I don't know if you guys want to elaborate on that why, but I think it's much
I
more
think
fluid.
so when me and Guilty had a conversation with Slew, he made the point of it reduces or it takes away from your rotation. So it actually makes your rotate, like it removes an ability from your rotation, which a talent shouldn't do in a sense, because
Yeah.
and I'm paraphrasing his words here. He might want to jump in and correct me, but it's a case of, well, you go from pressing rip and your rotation being, baseline, to then now if you take Sabretooth, you don't have to press rip again, which means that if that then changes, if you're in an environment where you don't have that, suddenly you have to rip again, and it's like it teaches you, in a sense, like a bad habit by removing one of your abilities. And I think that was a bit of what he had an issue with. And
Mm.
I kind of agree to an extent. Like I don't really like Sabretooth for that reason. I would much prefer to see it as an execute, as it used to be, and like you kind of get rewarded, like, hey, you've done the bleed rotation for 90% of the fight. Here's your reward. Go nuts.
Yeah, I do
Ferocious
miss
bite
that.
away kind of thing,
Yeah.
like that's where I kind of in my head see it. But I only came into Feral at the beginning of Legion, so a lot of my desire of Feral is based around Legion.
Jagged Wounds, I miss you.
Yeah,
It's so different to like PvE and PvP. It's so different to kind of what like I'd like to see for the class, which makes it kind of hard to find the balance there.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
tough.
And that's why it's good to have you, like, to discuss those things, because I mean, I talk about Feral like mostly from a Mythic Plus standpoint. So when it comes to
Yeah.
raiding and like PvP, I'm like, whatever happens there, I'll just accept it. But like when it comes to Mythic Plus, I'm like very like, it should work like this, it should work like that. So
Yeah. I
so
wonder
yeah,
if
it's good to
there's a
have.
world where like we can all get what we want though at
Well,
the same time.
yeah, I
I
mean,
think there is,
I,
but
I think as well, like this is one of the questions that's going to kind of be coming later down the line. But I kind of get the feeling that Blizzard sees Feral as a PvP spec. But we'll kind of get into that in a little bit, and I want to hear your thoughts on that, Snoopy. But
yeah.
I kind of want to jump to, where do you guys think Feral is headed, right? And Soul, kind of jumping on what you said, where people either think Feral is too easy or it's too complex, and there's that divide. We've got the bleed build, we've got the
Bite build.
like kind of the bite build. What do you think is the direction that Blizzard is aiming for? Like, where are we going?
I personally think like you can't suit it for everybody. Obviously, I just want Feral to reach a point where everyone's comfortable playing it, because people are not, and to an extent, as far as the difficulty goes. And I remember during 8.2, I was playing the Incarn build, but mostly BFA was based on luck anyway. So I was doing Incarn instead of the normal build for PvE, because it was just like, well, I'm just biting. It's just, I was just shredding and biting the whole entire time, and you were pulling ahead of DPS based on luck, and going in 8.3 as well. But I won't talk about 8.3 because the whole expansion was based on luck for that one.
Yeah.
But where it can go, I don't want to say break the stigma, and where we reach a point where, because even now we can still do above par DPS, but not enough people play Feral to parse and show those numbers out. People want to bring more utility than a survival hunter, I'll tell you that. But people just not enough people will show. If you actually watch the parse on Shadowlands rating, the difference between like the number of people parsing or recording their logs as warlocks compared to Feral Druids is like 3 to 100. So the numbers are not there to show, because none of people are playing it itself.
And you guys want to jump, kind of like follow on to that, or like, you got your own kind of direction of where you think we're going?
Yeah. So for Arena, I like in the beginning with the bite build, I was like convinced that like we're gonna be biting the whole expansion. But then a week later they changed it. So right now, like I think it's gonna be like a mix for Arena where you're gonna be bleeding a lot, but also doing big bites. Like Lunar is a pretty good talent, but Sabretooth, like the 20% bite damage, still seems to kind of outweigh the benefit of Lunar in Arena. So which just means you're gonna be biting more. And I think like with the Sabretooth nerf, because went from like 4 seconds per comm point to 1 second per comm point, um, you can't really maintain the rip by just biting. But if you apply like a 5 second comm point rip, and then you can kind of supply it for like a certain amount of time at least before you
Yeah.
have to reapply it. So it's still kind of fine, and it's like it's like somewhere in between now. It feels for Arena where you're biting a lot, but you also gotta reapply rip and keep break up, of course.
Okay.
So somewhere in between, I'd say, is kind of what I'm getting the feeling of right now.
What about do you think Maystine for like from a Mythic Plus perspective? I mean, have you been playing around with Feral too much in Shadowlands so far?
I did like 1 or 2 times each dungeon, and from what I've done, it's mainly bleed. Like a lot of damage come from Rip, thanks to Primal Wrath not being cap yet. Keep it like that, please. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
I really like the bleed deck right now.
mhm. I mean, I've been noticing. It depends what setup you've been playing with, but like I've been favoring more MOC or potentially even Feral Frenzy over Blood Talons when it comes to Plus because Blood
Yeah,
Talons just
not
doesn't
even
feel
touching Blood Talon.
nice, but the damage is good on it. You know, the damage is good on it in Mythic Plus, and I mean, I've kind of been seeing on my DPS meters and Robo. I mean, I know you've been doing a lot of testing in Mythic Plus as well, but it seems like, I mean, I use Apex Predator, so my ferocious bite damage is like huge. I'm getting like 50 free bites in a dungeon, but I also have like my next damage will be Rip, even with MOC. It feels like our combo point. It feels like our bleeds don't quite do like just because our bleeds are top. I don't feel like they do tons of damage. I just feel like they're better than other things, and it feels like our combo point generators are quite weak. And I don't know if it's the fact that we are losing wild flesh rending, for example, right? That's kind of
Yeah, we
impacting our
get
combo
used
point
to play
generators.
with that Azerite way too much, I think.
Mm.
So yeah, losing it.
I feel like single target is definitely bite build. Like a lot of your damage is going to come from bite. And I guess in PvP you kind of need the bite damage so you can get your kills and stuff. But like it's definitely more dot oriented the more targets you add because it's just more efficient. Yeah, and I think your comments about Blood Talons and Mythic Plus really echo because like your the talents on the last row have been balanced quite heavily. Like basically you're really thinking it's Blood Talons now 30% finisher damage, and if you're doing less than about maybe 35 to 40% of your damage is coming from finishes, then suddenly Mock and Frail Frenzy are a lot more attractive. And if you're playing Apex Predator, you can't actually get every single free bite to be buffed as well. So that's that's kind of the numbers that I look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, excellent. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know where we're kind of headed in terms of, and like kind of what I was like trying to get at as well as I don't really know where Blizzard wants us to be. You know, like I personally feel like if you look at Rogue, for example, right? Because Feral resembles Rogue the most. We're combo point, builder, spender, all that kind of stuff, right? So we look at Rogue, and they have 3 separate specs with 3 separate talent pools, and they can follow down certain paths and really invest and really flesh out that path. So if you're going, into Outlaw, you can really go into that kind of like faster pace, like kind of spam style that we do see in Feral with like, just big like ferocious bite procs and stuff, and a ferocious bite kind of damage coming through. And then you can see like Sub Rogue, for example, where you're in, it's got its whole separate talent system and legendaries and all that kind of stuff. And it feels like Feral Druid, we're trying to achieve a bite build and like the spam style and also this bleed spinning plate style at the same time with half the stuff. Because we have, one pool of legendaries to choose from, one pool of talents, but we can see it done in Shaman. Like we can see Enhanced Shaman, for example, where you have a Lava Burst, like Flame Shock, fire build. We have a Wind Fury Totem, like, Storm Strike, Wind type build. And then we have a Frost build with Ice Fury and Hailstorm and stuff. And like we can see that there are these different avenues that you can go down and you can achieve this within one deck. But I feel like Blizzard hasn't quite figured out what they want Feral to be yet. because
What do you want it to
neither
be?
really like is strong. You know. What are you gonna say, Soul?
I was like, what do you want it to be? Like, what's your go-to? Like, what do you dream of Feral becoming?
Well, for me, I mean, like I say, I only started playing Feral back in Legion, right? So I don't have like the
The
long
memories.
yeah,
The
I don't
memories.
have the memories exactly. I don't have those lovely things to draw back to. But for me in Legion, I really enjoyed the fact that Savage Raw was strong, with then having to really emphasize my bleed style play, and that for me was interesting because it felt challenging at the time. Whether that would still be a challenge now, I mean, I don't know, but I enjoyed that. Um, I definitely feel the bleed style is a lot better because I feel like our damage is just so consistent. Like it is consistent down to a T, and I feel like with the bleed damage, you see all these other specs that are bursting up the meters, right? And then they're slowly coming back down again. And I feel like Feral's gameplay is to kind of, we don't burst up, but as these specs are kind of, like falling back down, we're kind of, our bleed damage, consistent damage is supposed to kind of like beat with them somewhere along the line. And like, as their burst breaks off, our consistent damage beats that and follows through. And that kind of be our advantage, and I like that style. I think it's good in PvP. So like it needs to be like you want those raw styles, so then you can eventually pump some bites into them and kind of finish them off. But you want that bleed style going on. In Mythic Plus, it's good because the higher key you get, the longer things are alive, the more you can rot those mobs down. And then even in Raid, I mean, as long as a fight is lasting more than a couple minutes, you're in a good shape there. So for me, that makes the most sense, but it feels like Blizzard is going against that. I don't know if you guys agree or not. Like what you...
I think Mythic Plus has really only been around. Well, it has been around since Legion. So before that, raiding and PvP are mostly single target or low cleave endeavors. So I think the design back then for Feral was okay. You're going to suck in dungeons, but that's okay because dungeons aren't an important part of the game. And I think coming into BFA, Blizzard's really tried to tone down a lot of not just for Feral, but for like a lot of classes. Basically, in the multiplier, like of going from single target to two target to three target. So, for example, like in previous expansions, if you added a second target, some classes would be doing like 90% more damage. So, like pretty much, you take your single target damage and you double it if you have two targets. And now it's more towards like the 30 to 50% mark for a lot of good cleave specs. So because of that, I feel like Blizzard's kind of forced to push a lot more damage into bite because that can't be replicated on a second target. Yeah, so I think there's a bit of constraints of what Blizzard can do with Feral without also making other specs gigabusted as well.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I just kind of, wondered if you guys had any kind of input on that. But yeah, I agree. Like, I think Blizzard wants to move away from the bleeds because I feel like it's a balancing thing that they struggle with, and it's a very difficult thing to like. It can either be too weak or it can just easily get out of control and end up being too strong. Like you say, Robo, as soon as you start adding additional mobs into that fight, suddenly bleed damage or dots can very, very strong. But we still see it kind of played out in Warlocks and Shadow Priests and stuff, and to some extent like Boomkin. They are still performing well in that environment. So it's interesting, but we'll see kind of where Blizzard want to end up with it, Off of that, do you guys have like a favorite rendition of Feral that you've liked the most historically, and like what would that be?
So for me, it'd be middle of Legion when Jagged Wounds was there, and quite possibly the most difficult Feral iteration they ever had. Because at the time, Jagged Wounds, obviously the new legendary, they revitalized over legendary as well, where your bleeds time is reduced by 25%. They had that, and Savage Roar was also best in slot. So you're juggling your Rip, your Rake, your Savage Roar, and Thrash all at the same time, which is constantly falling off. And if you waste a single shred wrongly, then you just totally mess up your DPS and your Blood Talons, and it was like the most like stressful rotation in the world, but it was super fun.
You'd end a raid night and you need to take a shower,
Oh
sweat.
my god! And back to your question about like our bleed cleave, it did show because Feral was actually topping meters on Mythic Queen Azara for that reason. On Mythic Queen Azara, you have 3 ads in the final phase that up at the same time, and you have to kill them all at the same time. And when you move to Sabretooth that we currently have, you could spread them evenly, and you always had Rip and Rake up on all 3 targets. And Feral was absolutely destroying the meters for Queen Azara, for example. So obviously it depends on the fight, but our bleed damage was even this good in BFA. But on the fights that were up to 3 target cleave, we were just destroying the meters.
I think it definitely has potential. I think Feral is very close to being in a strong position. Do you guys think it's down to like a tuning, like just a number? We've just seen a 5% buff to Feral. Do you think Blizzard just needs to add on a 30% buff, a 50% buff, a 200% buff, or do you think it's a case of a slight redesign in sense?
I think like a mix of both, like a slight redesign on some abilities, but also like 5% more wouldn't hurt, It would be
Keep
very
adding
nice.
them on, extra
Yeah.
5 here and there, throw it
I mean,
in.
I'd say 5 more would actually make it like very nice. I think 5 more percent and revert the Berserk nerf. Like those 2 things would for PvP like Arena make Feral a lot more. What do you say? Good, a lot more good.
Yeah, like a lot
way
better. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I think Feral in Arena is a lot closer to being good. I mean, correct than like PvE. I think PvE the differential is a lot more than 5%. I think,
Yeah.
although there are some outliers on the top end that probably need to be brought down before you even consider like buffing Feral.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Macy, what about you, dude? Like, have you been
Well,
have you got anything there?
I think the spec is fine. Like, of course, you can do some tunings, but it's just a matter of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the gameplay is actually fine.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a slight buff. It's underperforming.
What did you find, Macy? Like, I mean, I know. Obviously, you achieved like what 6.4k IO in season 4 BFA, so like just gone. And I know that you were playing with some like some very good players and some very good keys, right? And like, how did you feel in those situations? Did you feel like you were able to like kind of keep up and or even
In terms of
outperform?
damage,
In terms of like damage and use to the group, like did you feel valued or did you feel like you were a burden? Like where did you? Because I've played with mode before, and whenever I played with him, I felt like a burden. But what do you think?
if you compare yourself to like Fire Mage or BM Hunter, then obviously you will do maybe 2 times less damage, but in terms of utility, it was actually insane.
Yeah.
Like I was doing the rogue job keys, so it's actually good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I found that as well. Like doing like handling a lot of rogue stuff, and you go into say like go into Underart or something, and you could just handle the maggot, and it didn't matter that you didn't have the rogue because you just hibernate it and whatever else you needed to do, and
was also able to do like more damage than rogue. So if Shroud was not needed, Sap, then yeah, Feral was better, in my opinion.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Do you see that still being a situation going into Shadowlands, or do you feel like? I mean, I've played with some mages recently, and like it just feels like, why am I even here? Like just bring a rogue for utility, get me out of here, and like let the mage just pop off.
Yeah, I don't think you need to look at the numbers too much, because obviously on beta you have so much broken things to abuse, and it's really hard to compare.
True. Yeah, fair point.
Cries in Survival Hunter.
Why? What's up with Survival Hunter?
They bring nothing. Well, there's no reason to bring them to like a raid or most because I mean, for M+, yes, but they have the same kind of stigma for Feral Druids. It's just, yes, even if there's a scenario, let's just use Feral and Survival as an example. Even if there's a scenario in high-end Mythic rating where they can compete with a DPS, and say, for example, even if they're better at DPS as a melee, there's just still no reason to bring it over a beam hunter who's doing the same damage or an M hunter who's doing the same damage. And that's why where Feral is, where there's no reason people want to bring it over a rogue who's doing the same damage, or a warrior who's doing the same damage because he's going to pop off at execute range, or the rogue who has more maybe like utility wise, but even when we have immunities, that's a big thing. It's even if the damage is better or you can't compete, it's just there's always more. It's like the concept of Death Knights. Their damage is really high, they're really amazing, and now they have a guaranteed utility that raiders and groups need, anti-magic zone. And I want to talk about that one moment where ferals were almost a requirement to go to raids in most dungeons. When Conflict and Strife first came out, the first iteration had Leader of the Pack as Conflict and Strife. Imagine how great that would be for 5% extra crit for your whole entire party. In Melee, in raids, we were almost required to be there. But they changed it, of course.
Yeah, I mean, for you, Soul, like, I know... Oh, sorry, did somebody want to jump in there?
No, I was just say or Leader 2, I think would definitely make Feral, I mean, right now you can pick it as a talent, right? But if Leader was baseline, just like you go cat form and it's on, I think that would be a very, very good thing for Feral Druid.
That would just free you up an extra PvP talent,
yeah,
wouldn't it? So you
yeah,
just...
but well, I hope they change that for PvE, and then it's kind of like a buff to PvP as well. That's my hopes. But yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I mean, is there anyone? So does everyone just like unanimously just think Leader of the Pack is the thing that we're missing? Is there something else? Like, I mean, I haven't spoken to you all individually to know where you're at. It seems like a lot of things that are flying around. If you go to forums, you go to the Dream Grove, you go to like wherever, YouTube comments, you see people saying, "Give us Trance, give us Innovate, give us Leader of the Pack." Do you think that is something that is just like a it's just like self-perpetuating because everyone's talking about it, everybody else talks about it as well? Or do you think that is legitimately the best option for you? Do you think there's something else?
We actually used to have it before Legion. So almost every raid group had a Feral Druid for that reason. And I'm one of those guys who thinks that I think every class should bring something small to a raid or a party, that small buff, like almost not a requirement, but have something to give. And when your class doesn't have something to give, well, that's what happens. But
I feel like the Demon Hunter has actually taken over the Feral spot, like moving into Legion, because now you have a magic damage buff, and you're like, okay, let's bring the DH now because they have a buff, and Feral doesn't have anything. But I was speaking to a couple of DHs when DH was pretty bad on beta, and they were like, oh, I guess I'll get brought to raid because I have this magic damage debuff, but I don't really want to be there just because for the debuff and to bin damage.
I mean, we look at like raid buffs, right? You guys are saying about raid buffs and stuff, and it's literally Feral, Rogue, and Survival Hunter, the only three things that don't bring like a buff, I guess. We got Monk with Mystic Touch, we got DK AMZ, Ret Paladin bring... I don't actually know what it is exactly that Ret Paladin brings, but I know that they bring either like a buff or they bring, bubble and stuff, which could be very effective. We have DH with magic buff. You got Warrior with AP, like yada yada yada. It's literally just Survival Hunter and Feral that don't actually really bring a whole lot. Yeah, like Freedom, for example, Sack. Yeah, exactly all those things. So, do you think the answer is to give Feral utility or strip away some of the utility that everybody else is bringing? Because it seems like everybody and their grandma right now has got utility.
I think this goes to Snupy, because if they give Feral more utility, then we'll be downright broken in PvP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we're all about now. That's why we're so good in PvP and arenas, is because of our utility and all the utility we got from in Shadowlands. If we got more, a little broken.
Yeah, I actually feel like for example, the 5% buff that happened, I feel like that was not because of PvP, that was because of PvE, and then we got it for PvP too. So it's so hard because like if they, I don't know, give us more utility, it's gonna make us stronger PvP, maybe too strong, I don't know. But I feel like Feral's not like broken or anything in PvP. It's not even doing that good. So I think if they buff it in PvE and then kind of we get the benefit maybe even more in PvP, I think that's a good thing. And yeah, go ahead.
See, this is my point about the fact, like, and we were gonna touch on it later, but we can kind of go into it now. I think Blizzard sees Feral as a PvP, and you hear people saying like, "Oh, Feral is so like, dog right now, it's just terrible. Like, nobody takes it. Nobody invites me to key or raid. I'm having to fight with my guild leader because they're asking me what feral, like, why should they let me in on my feral? And, like, those are definitely things that are happening. But, like, you look at PvP for feral, and we're being played in the AWC, like, by multiple teams. You know what I mean? Like, feral has a place there, but nobody really talks about that because, I mean, I think maybe PvP is a smaller section of, it's like a more close knit kind of area of the game. But it feels like you say, Snupy, I mean, like, we're gonna be just too strong in PvP
I
if we
mean,
have Entangling Roots, Cyclone,
Yeah.
Leader of the Pack, like Thorns, like on and on and on.
I mean, to be honest, though, like Feral, we are doing pretty good in PP, but it's like in one comp you can play Jungle Cleave, which is Feral Hunter Priest, which is like a really really viable comp. But that's kind of like your only option, right? And Ferals in general, like we are looked upon like as a pretty big meme in PP2 by a lot of
Oh,
people, even
really?
though like yeah, like we have good seasons. Like season 4, we had Dressed, Reaping Flames, like so much bar power, corruptions, and we kind of scaled really well with it. Um, but like even when we're doing good, like people still think it's bad, and I think we've been bad more seasons than we've been good. Um, but I do feel like yeah, Farrell's like closer for sure in PP to being like a good, like a more yeah, like a solid spec. But I don't know, we're not like where I would want us to be. Of course, I main Farrell, so I want Farrell to be as strong as possible. But I think we're pretty like lackluster in PP a lot of the times, and we have like one good season, like season 4 was really good, but that was more because of like bard power than like Feral itself, because you would like
Yeah.
maim, you play Iron Jaw, so you would proc maim, and then maim Frenzy, Reaping Flames, Dressed, and then Bite, and you would one shot. But half the damage is from your trinkets and essences.
Well, luckily for you, we're going to have a lot of borrowed power going into Shadowlands as well with
Yeah,
legendaries
I
and
can't wait.
Connets. So,
Can't wait.
we'll see if that still continues over. But okay, so Feral could technically get buffed in like in PvE. That could carry on over to PvP, and you still don't think Feral would be in danger of being like too
No,
strong?
no,
No.
no.
Okay.
I think like for Feral to be too strong, like we need to like it has to be something like drastic, like I don't know what it would be, but like small tuning that's gonna happen in PV, or like adding maybe one, like let's say leader baseline would not make Feral like suddenly be OP or something.
Okay.
I mean, some people might complain. Some people might complain. But when you look at like all the specs, I don't think Feral is gonna be super OP by any means.
And I think like 5% crit buff in arena when you're buffing 3 people is like, it's nice, but like compare that to 5% crit in a raid, the benefit is a lot stronger in the raid. So if they're going to
Yeah.
balance that way, if they needed to buff Feral by like 30% in raid, but only 2% in PvP, that's something you could do.
Yeah, true. The
Random numbers
scale in
out there.
raid is a lot larger than the scale in, so it kind of self manages itself in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. I mean, I know that like I've said historically, and I felt like I should probably clear it up a bit as well. Like I know historically people have gone, oh, like I kind of shit on Leader of the Pack a little bit because I kind of had the impression of like it's either going to be so strong that like we're just absolutely required for raiding, which I felt like is not a good game design, in a sense, to have something absolutely required. And that doesn't mean that it isn't currently the case for certain specs. You look at Demon Hunter, it's required. But I don't think that's a good game design when you physically can't have every spec in the raid. But I thought it either would make them too strong or it would make it not strong enough, in which case we wouldn't get invited anyway. But I've spoken to a lot of you guys in chat, and I've seen YouTube comments, and I've seen, people come into stream and stuff and say, hey, Sai, my guild leader's asking me, like why I want to play Feral and, like why I want to raid as Feral, and they're not letting me raid with them. And like, can you try and convince them? Like, why should, convince them as to why I should be able to go as Feral? And I'm like, dude, honestly, I can't. Like, there's no reason to want to bring a Feral. So, looking at a lot of what you guys have said and like looking at your situations in these real life situations, I think that Leader of the Pack could be a good option to just at least have a fighting chance. And when you go to your guild leader and you say, hey, look, at least I can bring a a crit buff for the raid, then they can go, okay, well, even if it isn't the strongest thing in the game, it's still a benefit over you don't bring anything at all, in a sense. So I think leader of the pack could be a good option. I think. I mean, is there anything else that you guys think utility wise that like we should kind of slurp up, or do you think we're looking okay utility?
I mean, like we already got clone baseline, right? Which doesn't affect PV as much as probably. But in PP, like getting clone baseline was super nice because freeing up that one on town spot and just having it like always is super big.
I think the only good benefit for clone in PvE is bolstering.
Yeah.
So that's a
Yeah.
lot more trivial now.
Yeah,
Just
bolstering
cycling the
or
mob
bursting.
and AoE everything. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you
one
guys
or two.
recall if they increased the range of roar to bear range? Obviously, bear has a bigger.
I
Savage
don't
Roar-
think
or-
so, but I know there's a conduit that you can get not a potency, a finesse conduit that increases
15%,
it by
yeah.
15. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest issues with my feral versus like bears is like our roar range was tiny, like 20, 15 yards, I think 20, 15 yards, and a bear was like 40 yards. Like, okay, if our roar was 40 yards, that would be insane utility for raids, but everybody has to come stack on you to receive your tiny roar. Once I get it, RP wise, we're a cat, we're not a giant bear. So
Yeah, I remember when we were doing Kill Jaden Prog. That's one of the reasons I had to go Guardian because it's 40-yard range. It was also affected by Guttural Roars, which was a talent that you took as Guardian anyway. But you couldn't hit everyone in the raid with Feral Roar.
Yeah.
And that was like the soak mechanic fight where you had to soak every, 40 seconds.
Yeah, and like Guilty is making the point that like there was a point where I believe Guardian was a lot bigger than Ferals, but I think they're uniform now. And you just and then obviously that would align with now Boomkin and Resto also have Stampeding Roar, and I think it's all just equal across the board, equal and fair. All things should be. But what do you think, Macy? Like coming from a Mythic Plus standpoint, is there anything that you think that we need utility wise? You already kind of alluded to the fact that you had a lot you felt useful. Do you think there's anything that you think we need, or good?
Well, I feel like we have enough, but using Maim in Mythic Plus felt really bad, like in terms of damage, but it was almost required because you had to stun mobs. So maybe do something about it for Mythic Plus.
Like up the damage or something, you mean? Or like
Yeah,
reduce the cost or something to like balance it out a little
because
bit?
if you compare it to a Ferocious Bite, you do way less damage.
Whereas if you look at something like Outlaw Rogue, where you do Between the Eyes, I know
Yeah,
they
you
changed
don't
Between the
hurt
Eyes, but like
anything from doing it.
yeah, Between the Eyes on Rogue, like you gain like it was your best damage ability, so like you wanted to use that. Whereas Maim, it always feels bad to use, doesn't it? Do you think that kind of fixes itself a little bit with the change to our talent rows and the fact that Bash is, I guess, fundamentally the best talent on that row? Because you have Bash, Mass Entangle, or Heart of the Wild. It is likely that we are going to be taking Bash in a setting. Would you not just opt to use that instead of Maim? I mean, I know there are sometimes you have situations where you want to Maim then Bash two different targets.
Yeah, in Shadowlands,
But
having Bash baseline will be really good. So
Oh yeah, I agree with that. That'd be so nice.
I think it's a bit silly, and I want to hear what you guys think. I think it's a bit silly that we have Bash as a talent, and then they've made it so Feral Affinity gives everybody Maim, and like Maim isn't really very strong, like you're saying, Missing. Like, and like if you're a Resto Druid, I mean, someone in chat has said it feels strong as Resto Druid, but I feel like as a Resto Druid, you have to jump into cat form, build up combo points, and then opt to use your Maim, which can't really be used on the fly. You can't just like react to a situation where somebody misses an interrupt and you can quickly stun it and redeem the situation. It's like
I think you
give
can
me
carry
10
the combo
seconds.
points though.
Sorry?
You can carry the combo points from pack to pack. It's not like your combo points are going to disappear. So you just build them on one pack, and then when you need to go cat form, you can stun.
True, but it's still you need to be that like in melee range. You need in cap form at that moment, kind of ready to go. Which I think is, and like Boomkin's never going to use it. Guardian's never going to use it. So it feels like even in our affinity, we're kind of being weakened. You know, I don't think Maim is the best option there really, but I guess ultimately it doesn't really matter if people are opting for Feral Affinity or not, because who cares? It doesn't buff Feral technically. So
I mean,
yeah.
what else can they put? You know,
True.
the Feral Affinity, because we have nothing.
Yeah, what do we
Feral
have that's
Affinity
Only
unique?
is
Maim.
feral spec.
Sorry,
Double
what was
feral.
that?
So we should have Feral Affinity with Feral Spec and have double Feral Affinity.
So what, we get
Oh,
double
it's-
benched? What happens there?
No, then you can run really fast.
Yeah, baseline 60% speed.
Dude,
can
I'm
run
gonna
all
be
the way
doing
to the
so
bench.
many laps in Orobos when I'm not taken to raid night, you know? Like, why do you do that? What do you guys think about the fact that Feral has no unique utility for the spec? Do you think that's okay? The fact that Boomkin and Resto have just gained Stampeding Roar. Obviously, we've all gained Cyclone. Technically, Boomkin has gained... Boomkin had Typhoon. They've now gained Ursul's Vortex. Which did they have that already? I'm trying to think back now. They gained that now.
They gained it, I'm pretty sure.
They've gained it. Resto stayed the same, I believe, because they had Typhoon and Ursul's Vortex, so they've technically stayed the same. Guardian has lost either Vortex or Typhoon. Feral's kind of stayed the same, right? So what do you think about the fact that Feral's not really like bringing
I think
anything
Feral's
to the table?
actually Feral's got Typhoon and Bash now though, so they actually got the Bash buff, if that makes sense.
Technically, but everybody's got Bash now.
Yeah.
Which is funny because we didn't get Innervate and everyone else still does.
Yeah, that's
They
what I'm alluding to.
Yeah, they got our Feral abilities, but we didn't get their abilities. Like what? We didn't
Yeah.
get Innervate, which would bring a lot for a party in a raid to innervate the healers. But what?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was alluding to, is the fact that like we kind of gave away our stuff and then we didn't get anything in return. But do you
We
think
used
we
to have
need
Trank.
anything in return?
We used to have Tranquility and we used to have Innovate.
The button is there to implement them. You can re-implement them. But yeah, I think Cyclone as well. I think Cyclone would definitely benefit from being able to be castable in cat form. One thing that I'm very big on is right now it feels really clunky with like, if you want to battle res in bear form, you have to use rage. If you then want to like battle res as cat, you have to jump out of cat form to res. Like, there's no
Yeah, that's really
uniform
bad.
situation. The fact that if you hibernate, you can hibernate in cat form. So it's like there's some things that you can do in cat form, some things that you can't. It seems really just like amalgamated, and there's no clear universal situation. Things like I personally would like to see Cyclone castable in cat form. That doesn't mean free instant cast Cyclone there, Snoopy. Don't get your hopes up, but
No,
at least it would be
Somebody would,
castable
like,
in
go
cat
crazy.
form. Yeah.
Maybe
But
one day though. You never know.
interesting.
I mean, they made a remove corruption like castable in cat form like in 8.3, I think, right? So they are able to make things castable in cat form, and I think cloning cat form would be really good for Arena. But like good in like not an OP way, right? Just strong, and would feel like very fluent, because right now like leaving cat form, I guess you can leave cat form then if you have like Fury, Berserk, or Dash, you can cast a clone and instantly get back into Well, you could do that anyway, so I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
Did
You
you
think-
play PvP Feral when Claws of Shrivala was out, or whenever that weird
Yeah, a little bit.
man-cat form was?
Yeah, I played some back then, but
It was this.
I have faint memories only. I only main Feral since BFA season 2 now, so
Okay.
yeah, I'm pretty new. But I did play some in VOD and some in Legion, and to be honest, I think my favorite iteration was the one in season 4. It was so fun with the reaping and dressed. But
You borrow power wannabe,
yeah,
here.
I know. I mean, one-shotting is pretty satisfying. Okay, what can I say?
I just realized as well, like you were talking earlier about getting a leader. If like leader of the pack was made baseline, you'd get a free talent slot there for PvP talents. And then I realized that like you said, you got Cyclone as well. So like Cyclone's a free spot now.
Yeah.
So you just like want all these.
I
free
mean, I
PvP
want it all.
talents,
Okay,
dude.
I want it all. But honestly, I think you gotta shoot for the moon, and then like you'll get something good anyways. Because I think if we don't ask for anything, we won't get anything. So if we ask for a lot, then we'll get something. And
Yeah.
maybe
I
that's-
definitely want to commend Blizzard. I feel like it is okay. I want to commend them to some extent. I feel like they have been listening to some of our changes, and obviously we spoke about Berserk previously on this show, and talked about Bloodhounds as well on the show. They have made those changes. They've gone back even and said, okay, well, we'll change Berserk again. We'll change Bloodhounds. Like they changed Bloodhounds like 4 times, right? So it seems like they are making these changes. So I am kind of I do want to praise them a little bit and say, like, thank you, Blizzard, for doing that. but it still feels like we are needing a little bit more of kind of like fine tuning and stuff. But yeah, I do think that they are trying to take some of these things on board. So like you say, something like, you know, shoot for the moon, and then even if you don't kind of quite make it there, at least like maybe we get out the atmosphere, you know, at least like we maybe get a little something, and we can kind of compromise somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right, and
But, I
then
mean,
oh, sorry, go on.
no, yeah, I was gonna say one thing. Like one thing that kind of bothers me is like the Berserk nerf, because I think Berserk was at a point where it was it felt really good, and I felt like, you know, we finally got like something like that was very, very nice, and then it was taken away with
What if
the energy
I was
nerf.
gonna say, what if Berserk stayed exactly how it is, but they just reduced the cooldown on it to say like 1 minute 30 or like 2 minutes? Would that be okay, or do you
Yeah.
think it?
I mean,
Yeah.
I think when you go Berserk, you should be able to like going Berserk should give you the ability to use more abilities than or like, you know, spam more bites, whatever. And like taking away the energy benefit, kind of, to me, just makes it feel like far from as good, because like being able to just go Berserk for like, you know, a short amount of time and actually go Berserk, um,
You could
feels pretty good.
scream, I guess.
Yeah,
while-
just go and scream at. But I think yeah. I mean, it did get nerfed, right? Where like they changed the energy, like you don't get the energy benefit, or am I crazy now? Because I was saying Berserk nerf in chat question mark. I
Well,
think
you could. It's enough depending on how you look at it. It's a buff in some
yeah.
ways. It's enough in some ways. Depends how you look at it. But I mean, technically, they just kind of swapped Berserk and Incarnation in a way, and then modified it slightly, right? So like if
Yeah.
you took Incon right now, you would technically have everything that you want, right? You'd have the benefits of Berserk currently, but then you'd also have your energy gain. I think the issue is that Incon is not like a competitive talent in that row, right? Like Soul of the
Yeah.
Forest is just too strong comparable
Yeah,
to
and
the
like
rest.
that's the problem where like you get more bites, but you don't have the energy to spend the bites, you know, in a good way. So it's like you feel like you're just lacking, right? You're getting these comp points, like 5 comp points, and you gotta wait, you know, 2 seconds or whatever, maybe 1 second. And in arena where you stun someone up and you want to get the bites in, and then you gotta start waiting, and then they're gonna get
Moment's
healed.
gone. Yeah.
Stun fate, yeah, moment's gone. Like it's like you have like a 4 second kill window, and
Yeah.
it goes away. It just fades if so I mean, you can
Absolutely.
still do big damage, but it felt way better with the energy benefit. But I do get it, because that kind of made, you know, Incarn useless. Like why would you go Incarn if Berserk's pretty much the same thing, I guess. But I don't know.
Isn't Incon like only 20% energy reduction at the moment instead of 40 or whatever
I
it was?
don't know off the top of my head. I honestly
just
I
remember
haven't
being
looked at
really
that
weak.
talent in 2 years. You know. Yeah, it's something like that. But yeah, I mean, like kind of jumping into the talents. Then, what do you guys think we're at with the talents? Like, are you happy with them? I mean, we're talking about Incon and Soul of the Forest and those comparative talents, and I've mentioned in the past. My personal take is you look at Soul of the Forest, you look at Savage Roar, you look at Incon. What are each of those talents? Well, all of them are energy men, right? Plus some additional benefits, some kind of damage modifier as well. But you look at it, Soul of the Forest is like this passive, easy to use. You don't even have to think about it. It just does. Savage Roar is this combo point spender that it's going to cost you energy, and you have to keep maintenance on it. You have to be thinking in your head, oh yeah, when is Savage Roar going to fall off, right? So there's a bit of additional mental kind of arithmetic to do there. And then you have Incon, which is still easy to use, like Soul of the Forest, but it's on a 3-minute cooldown. So it has this this timing window, right? So you have like this punishment of the fact that you have to wait 3 minutes to use it. So I personally feel like that's a good talent row. If the passive talent was the weakest, Savage Roar was like medium level gameplay, and then like Incon was the strongest or something. You know, what'd you say, Soul?
I said baseline Savage Roar.
Baseline Savage Roar. I mean, the problem with me, where everyone says, people say Primal Wrath baseline, Savage Roar baseline, and then I go, okay, so what the hell does Blizzard put in those talent slots? Like, if they've got Sabretooth as a talent and Scent of Blood as a talent, what the hell are they going to put in those two spots? Because it's not going to be good. So, like, stop asking for baseline stuff and just make the things that we have really good, because I'm scared.
Hang on.
Shrinks.
Look at Rogue's got Slice and Dice back as baseline. You just
Yeah,
at
they
least-
did.
Yeah,
Same
and they just so look, what's in the Rogue row? Isn't it like Alacrity or something like that? 2% haste per finish or something like that. Just do that.
I thought Alacrity.
So there,
Yeah.
I'm not sure actually. I'm actually not sure what's in the row. It depends which spec you play. But there are things they could put in there, just like have X% stat or whatever. So there are solutions if you just want to make things baseline. But I think
Yeah.
it's a bit late in the beta to do it.
Yeah, Guilty says yeah, it's baseline and they hate it. So I mean that's interesting. Yeah,
But they
it's
have
a
to
bit.
upkeep it
Sorry, was that so?
because they have to upkeep it now permanently, like during the rotation.
Lazy rogue players, that's what it is. But no, I mean I think making things baseline like that could be interesting. Like, but I just worry about what they would kind of fill that gap with. I don't really think that there are. I don't know. There are talents that are just like they're just outright the best talent on the row, and like nothing's gonna change that. But I mean, is there like any talent rows that you guys have problems with, or issues with, or things that you like, things you want to commend and say this is what we should get more of? Like, what do you guys think?
I mean, should I start? I have a problem with a
Yeah,
few.
sure.
I think the new Sabretooth is like. I get that the old Sabretooth, you never had to click rip. But I feel like they nerfed it to the point where, like the first part, like the rip part of the talent, is like useless. Like they should just make something else or buff it a bit because like they went from 4 to 1 second. I think 2 would be more fair because right now it's just like terrible. Like you get 5 more seconds on the rip from 5 comp points, which is not like anything. While the bite damage part is still good, but yeah, half talent just seems kind of dead to me now. And then I also think Heart of the Wild and Bash being on the same row is kind of clunky for PP because Heart's like a really really nice thing to have, but I like Bash is like needed, right? Like if you play Jungle Cleave, like you need Bash. I mean, you don't. I mean, you could play without, but without Bash is going to be a rough time. So it feels like you have a super nice option that's fun, but you can't really pick it because Bash is on the same row. So
You know
I
what's
think Bash should go baseline.
yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Well,
No
that's-
baseline. Hey, we can't ask for baseline spells. He said it.
Yeah. I said no. I said no baseline. I'm the commander in chief. No. Funnily enough, I think Heart of the Wild should be baseline. Roll Druid spec. Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna make us this like hybridy thing, give us Heart baseline. Like, why is that something we have to spec in? Because it's not even that strong. Like in PVE, like is anyone put your hands up? Are you using it in PVE? Because I'm
I
not.
think I have it, but I always forget to use it. But I think in raid, there's there's a healing encounter. I guess you can use it for that. And then other than that, not really.
I was using it mostly on Enzot when you have to go out of melee, jump into Moonkin form and Sunfire, Darksteel and stuff.
So there are like
The
cheap moments.
Sunfire's a bit too strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can jump into that in a second, but I just wanted to really say the issue for me, like CB, you were saying about Sabretooth and issues with it there. The issue for me is like we've gone to Blizzard and we've said, hey Blizzard, we have issues with Sabretooth, we have issues with Blood Talons, we have issues with Berserk. They've gone, they've changed all these things, and then we've gone, nah, change it again. And then we've gone, okay, now change it again. How many times can we cry wolf before Blizzard say, look, you guys don't even know what you want, you guys aren't happy with, take it or leave it. Like, just to play devil's advocate, what do you think?
Like personally, like I never really spoke out about like not liking Sabretooth. I thought it was pretty fun and it was nice because like applying rip to me isn't like a hard thing. It's just like a nice where you can just kind of you bite and there's like some things you can do there with timing it with the bites and like maintaining rips on many targets in arena. But in general, I mean it's hard because I feel like we did kind of get what we wanted and we didn't really like it. Like when I mean they change things, but they don't change them the way we want them to. But it's like it's so many people, and we can't agree on what we want. Like some PvP, some PvE, some role PvP maybe, and yeah, and it's like it's tough, like it can't be easy to be Blizzard to make different people happy about one thing. But I think like some things are like universal though, like where if like the first part of a talent is useless, I think they should just either remake it or make it not useless. Like don't just nerf it like to the point where it's 1 second per comp point, and just leave it be there. Like either make it like 2 or 3. Like 4 to 1, it's like a big nerf, Like it ruined the talent pretty much.
I
So,
think that it's
yeah.
again. I think it comes down to PvE versus PvP balancing because we set it to. Oh, at the moment it's 1 second, right? And in a
Yeah.
5-minute encounter with like pretty bin garbage secondary stats at the moment, you cast it rip 4 times in 5 minutes. So if it was 2 seconds, you cast it twice or something. So it's basically be the same as the old Sabertooth. So it's like obviously going to be very hard to tune it
Yeah.
for PvP and PvE.
That's the problem because like I don't know, man. Because like I only arena, right? I mean, I did some Mythic Plus for like the weekly cap and everything, and I did some Mythic rating for the trinkets for PvP. But yeah, I mean like some things if they change it for PP might ruin PV, and some things to change for PV might kind of ruin it for PvP. Or no, from PV to PvP.
Well,
So
that's where being a professional like game dev should come into play, and that's where they have to kind of that's their line to kind of walk. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think one thing I'm curious about is you guys know with how Sabertooth works, can you go beyond because the rip baseline if you have 5 combo points, what 32 seconds, 36 seconds? Oh no, is it 24 seconds? 5 combo point rip. How long does it last?
So it's
I'm
it's
currently on
24
black.
seconds.
24
24
seconds. Yeah,
seconds.
24.
Yeah.
I'm like going
And you can
Savage Roar, I'm going rip. What is it? So 24 seconds. So can you go beyond that?
Yes.
24
Pandemic.
seconds.
So it's it's pandemic. So it's 1.3 times. It's 7.2 seconds. So it's 31.2 seconds. But
So-
then you can go even further beyond that.
Okay, so if you're say playing a build with like Apex Predator, for example, where you're getting your ferocious by procs, and you're playing Feral Frenzy, and you put yourself in a window where you get a 5 combo points rip, and you're playing Sabertooth, and then you just blast out like these free ferocious by procs and these Feral Frenzies, like you can actually extend your rip for quite a long time. Do you not find Snoopy like in PvP is it
Mm.
still a bit of an issue, like even with that in mind?
So like in arena, the problem is you're gonna get CC'd and everything, right? There's like things happening to you like all time, which will stop you from being able to get the bites in. I noticed like if you have Berserk up, you can kind of do like a 2 combo rip and you can get it up with Berserk because you can do so many bites. But without Berserk, it really kind of feels like, I mean, you apply a 5 combo rip and you can you maybe get like 2 bites within the time, maybe more, and it just fades. Well, before you'd be able to actually like maintain it like throughout the whole game if you played it right. So yeah, not
But
as good anymore.
okay, that was just like a little side point that I was interested about. But yeah, I guess like jumping back onto the talents. I know Stupid, obviously you spoke about what you think about the talents. Did you guys have anything like Maystine? You got anything that you're interested in? Anything that that stands out to you guys that needs changing? I mean, for me, it's Scent of Blood, but like what do you guys got?
I was going to say we should really give a good props to Blizzard for balancing the last row. Like Feral Frenzy's pretty good now in PvE. It actually has a purpose, and I think all 3 talents have their uses now instead of just only 2 of them being useful. Scent of
Yeah,
Blood is definitely
point.
useless. Like I've tried the other day. I was like, oh, maybe we could maybe you could thrash and then swipe spam and then like feed bites into something. And then I was like, no, that actually just does less damage than a single target build. Like
Yeah.
in AoE and single target, if you just took brutal slash, you just do more damage. So at the moment, it has no point.
The funny part for me in Scent of Blood, like the part that I find just absolutely comical, is that it got nerfed because they capped swipe. So they nerfed Scent of Blood by capping swipe, and
What-
that
what
is
if they
just like what? Sorry.
What if they just changed it so that Scent of Blood gave you the current effect, but it also made swipe capped to 15 targets instead of 5? That's some way you could do something with
Or
it.
they could just baseline uncap swipe.
I think the
Yeah.
problem is having Primal Wrath on the same row. Because Scent
Yeah.
of Blood is not that bad if there is no Primal Wrath to compare it with. So maybe switch the talent.
So we could actually make like Scent of Blood baseline. Like I don't think in theory I don't think it's a bad. Well, okay, no, you wouldn't make Scent base. But like I don't know. In theory, I don't think it's a bad talent. I just think it doesn't like the numbers don't match up to what it's worth. They don't really add anything. But yeah, I think competing on the road with Primal Wrath is definitely a good point.
Scent of Blood was actually Biss in Legion when it was like an artifact trait. Like when I was doing Hellier Prog, like it was a bit of a meme. like everyone's like, oh, Eco Wraith is a terrible legendary because it just increases your range, it doesn't give you any damage. But like in the transition phases when you had 42-yard range, like Thrash or whatever it was, and then you just actually do more AoE damage than anyone else, and you still have priority damage. And it was just a really weird thing that nobody thinks about because I think obviously Feral's not like a well represented class, but then there's just some weird situations where it's just like, oh, here's a weird interaction that makes it completely busted. But that's the first and only time I think it's been good.
Okay. Fair point. Right. Okay. Well, I think okay, so we've got like a bit of time left. I don't know if chat are gonna have some questions and stuff eventually for us. We've got like a bit of time before we need to like jump into any Q&A, and if we don't have too many questions going on, then we can kind of continue the conversation. But there are a few more things that I want to kind of jump into. So what do I think I want to go to next? Yeah. So is there any spec in the game that you really think Feral could like benefit from? Anything else? Because for me, I look at, like, as an example, I look at Sub Rogue, right? And I see just how beautiful their cooldown setup is, where it just feels like it molds so well together, where you have, I don't know if you guys have played Sub Rogue too much, but basically you have a Tiger's Fury-esque ability, what's it called? Symbols of Death, right? So you have a Tiger Fury type ability that gives you like energy and gives you damage or whatever. I think is the crux of it. And then you have Shadow Dance, which makes it so that all of your abilities are acting as if from stealth. So kind of like a Berserk in a sense, though on a way shorter cooldown. So it kind of works like that. And then you have, so you can basically just like Shadow Strike spam. And then it also increases the damage of your abilities as well by, I believe, something like 27%. Or it's like a 15% modifier and a 12% modifier. And then you have a 3-minute cooldown. And I can't actually remember what the 3-minute cooldown does. Somebody in chat will know. But
Shadow Blades or it's
no, Shadow Blades is the 1-minute cooldown. That's what I was just talking about there. Then you have
like
Symbols of Death, which is like Tiger Fury. And then go ahead, Maystine, yeah?
Shadowblade is like the Berserk legendary. Like when you do finisher, you put a bleed, like a dot.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
does
yeah.
the same amount of damage.
Yeah. Oh, Shadow Dance is 1 minute. Shadow Blades is... Dude, they're all called Shadow. They're all like Shadow something. Just like 5 different abilities with the name Shadow, so I get confused. But yeah, so Shadow Blades... Okay, yeah, so there you go. So then you kind of have Frenzy Band baked into it as well. So Sub feels really, like, really good to me because it just... Those all synchronize very well together, and then obviously every time you're using a finisher, you're reducing the cooldown of these abilities. So you basically have this like the Shadow Dance Symbols of Death balancing, like juggling act. At least from my experience playing it, like I'm not an amazing sub rogue, but it just felt like if Feral had those types of things, we'd be sitting here going like, oh my god, it's overpowered.
Shuriken
Because
Storm.
It just is too good. Yeah, and then Shuriken Storm as well. Like it just seems to be like everything that Feral should be. It seems like Sub Rogue is Feral Druid, but actually berserked. You know what I mean? Like it just, because once you let loose with all your cooldowns, you absolutely just fly off. Is there anything that you guys feel like Feral should be more like, or anything that you really enjoy that you think Feral could benefit from, such as like I've just mentioned Rogue? Like, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I should play Sub Rogue a bit myself, or I used to main it before, and I played it today actually, and I agree. Like Sub Rogue has like a lot of like things just feel good on the spec. I don't really know like how that would translate to Feral though, or like what thing we would kind of transfer. But no, I agree with Sub Rogue. It's a very, very like well made spec. It feels.
This goes back to more of a bleed build, really. Like, I mean, in Legion, what it says was my favorite iteration. It's just you mess up your blood talons, your DPS was a loss. But if you kept up your blood talons perfectly on all your bleeds with jagged wounds up, and you didn't, because I remember back then, I remember in the beginning of the conversation it was like bite or bleed, and like in Legion during jagged wound days, you barely got a bite off at all. You barely bit. You were lucky enough to get one bite in every 5, or I would say every 10 common points. You're lucky to get like one bite off because that's how quick your bleeds deteriorated, and that was fine. That was your rotation was smooth as long as you didn't mess it up. People had weakers for that.
I think
Yeah.
there was a point where it was just not designed that well because you wouldn't actually cast First Spite. You just cast a Rip and then try and proc Ashermane's Rip, which did double damage. So you'd actually just not cast Spite at all.
But then you'd go into your execute window where suddenly
Yeah, and then
you'd
you would start
getting
casting.
yeah, you'd start getting like you'd start biting.
Popping up.
I think yeah, I think like Sub Rogue is a good example of it. It just feels like Sub Rogue is like 2020, and then Feral Druid is like back in like the 1950s. You know what I mean? It feels like Feral Druid is like just distant. Like we don't get as good a combo point generation. We don't get as good energy regen. Rogue's abilities then reduce their cooldowns of their abilities, and then we get a legendary like Frenzy Band, which is not as good as Shadow Blades. But then also we get like every combo point reduces your berserk by 0.2 seconds. And for Feral Druid, that doesn't use a lot of like we're not really like full spam like Rogue is. So 0.2 seconds, like that could be buffed to 1 second, and it still would probably just barely be strong. You know, or it would be like good. You know what I mean?
Keep in mind, things may change when we eventually can wear 2 legendaries, and then everything just goes chaotic, and it may be better then. But that's one of those things where in every expansion, Feral is always like really hit or miss at the beginning of an expansion, and halfway through it just like skyrockets. Every expansion, like for the past 3, have been like that for Feral.
Sorta. You kind of hope. I think 8.2 was strong for us, but I don't know. I don't feel like we've kind of skyrocketed since I've been playing Feral, but yeah,
for rating it,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, last season, if you had like Biss Garrett last season, you would pump in arena for sure. Or you did? Wait, did you play arena last season a little bit?
Dude, I got like 1.9, but I didn't have A, I never used comms, and B, I didn't have a consistent team to play with. So like I'd play for like a day, and I'd just like kind of I'd play 1 day per season. So I didn't really.
I mean, that's pretty good at like anyways. Like just but I think Feral like definitely skyrocketed in arena, like in BFA like last season. But again, it's because of like bar power and pretty much Mythic Dress was Mythic Dress with the Jungle Fury traits. You get the crit up and then stun him up, dress crits, and it's just GG. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know about like Feral in Legion and VOD because I guess it might skyrocket in PvE, but it might not skyrocket in PP or vice versa. So
cool. Anyone else want to add on that, or should I jump to kind of like the next bit?
He means leap to the next bit.
Leaped, yeah. Sorry, I'll wild charge to the next bit. Actually, that's a good conversation. Wild charge or Tiger Dash? No. So, are there any crazy, like, outlandish, very strong Feral Druid builds? Because I'm sure a lot of people here in chat are probably wondering, like, okay, what's the deal with Feral in Shadowlands? What's our best conduit? Our best, Soulbind? Our best conduits and stuff like that? Like, legendaries. Is there anything that you guys have found is working very well in your specific type of content that you're doing? You don't have to cover all the ground, but like Snupy, PvP, Maystine, whatever you guys want to do. You found anything so far?
Well,
so you can
go
go.
ahead.
Sorry. No, you go.
So I haven't played a lot on beta, so I didn't find any broken build to abuse. So I don't know, but
is there
mostly
anything
I'm,
that you're
like,
enjoying so
lead
far?
So right now I'm trying Necrolord to make it work.
To
It's
make
actually
it
fun.
work.
You're using Lunar Inspiration, aren't you? Little
I don't
rascal.
think it's gonna be
You little
good.
rascal.
Yes.
I actually, when I started playing beta, it was after I think all you guys probably had it. And I was thinking, well, if I play Night Fae first, I'm not going to test everything else. So I actually played Night Fae last, and I did Necrolord first. And it seems like it adds a lot of depth to the class, but it just seems very limiting in a lot of situations. It's basically just pure single target.
Necrolord, you said, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's
adaptive swarm, yeah?
exactly. I think if the other abilities were designed more like Adaptive Swarm, adding a lot more depth to the class, it would be very enjoyable to play Feral. But also adds, handicaps because I'm pretty sure at the moment it's like pretty useless for M+.
Is there... Oh, sorry, go on.
Good. I was so like at the beginning when it first like, oh wow, Lunar Inspiration, Adaptive Swarm. Where's the Dom build again? I was so hoping, and I tried it in an M+, like after 2 patches and 2 iterations for beta, I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah, for
Well,
bots, it's really bad.
Yeah, it was. I think it was you, Robo, that explained to me, like, because I didn't really think about it, but if you take Circle of Life and Death, which is the like Jagged Wounds esque legendary chat, which should in theory be really strong in a bleed build, and then you go, oh well, Adaptive Swarm is going to increase my periodic effects. Like this is a really good combo, but actually your Circle of Life and Death is going to reduce the amount of, or the length of the dot of Adaptive Swarm. So you actually get less uptime on the increased damage of your periodic effect. So it's actually, you actually don't want to take those two things together. And when you kind of explained that to me, Robo, I was like, oh dear God. Because I was trying it out and I was like, oh, this could be a good build. And then you were like, no, you can't do that. And I was like, oh God, okay, well, this is not fun.
Yeah. Because you
Yeah.
go from like 96% uptime with some cheesing on a 20% dot buff, and then as soon as you put on the dot legendary, you go down to like 50 or 60%. You're like, this is actually just doesn't give me a DPS buff on that trait.
And Knife comes in and you just start blasting.
What do you think about like Adaptive Swarm being maybe a multi-target dot? What if it hit say 3 targets on you? Like, would that be? Do you think that would be a good like a good place to be, or no?
I feel like, yeah, something like that, or if you put it on a target, that target does a rot pulse or something like that.
Kind of like I guess Death Knight and the fact that Unholy is able to like spread their like plagues and stuff, kind of thing. Like you'd put it on one target and then you'd spread it to everybody else. That kind of
I
stuff.
don't know if you'd be spreading or like just pulsing damage off that target 8 yards or something like that, or 10 yards, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Something
that would
needs
be
to be
really
changed
good.
there.
That would make it really nice in Mythic Plus. Personally, like that would be incredible, especially with Primal Wrath being uncapped AOE. Like that would just be phenomenal, I think. And I still, I don't know, it could make us very strong. It wouldn't put us up to the mage, point. But I mean, like again, if we just look at pure numbers, I mean, who knows how they're gonna end up shooting it. But I think that would be very fun, personally. I mean, it's called Swarm, and yet it only hits one target. Like, you'd expect it to kind of spread. And so, yeah, exactly what Keith was saying. Like, you'd expect a swarm to be, spreading out. But that's where I'd like it to be. A more AoE build. What do you think about the Soulbinds and the Covenants, though, of Necrolord? Are they? Oh, sorry, Conduits. Well, Conduits are flexible. But what do you think about Soulbinds of them?
I think well, conduits I'll just touch on really quickly. Basically, M+, you always take Tiger's Fury, and then raiding, you can take Tiger's Fury or Ferocious Bite. Ferocious Bite would do slightly more in single target, and then you don't have to do too much math to figure out they're the best two. At the moment, like the sudden ambush one might come up later, but that's when it's a higher rank. In terms of the Necrolord, the second tree, which you'll probably be able to use during Prague, is Imani. It's basically across the raid of 20 people. It's like equivalent of 100% uptime on 8% primary stat, which is, it's all right. But apart from that, there's nothing really going for it. The buff from Plague Divisor, where you absorb the essence of dead enemies, that got heavily nerfed. It used to be 6 minutes, now it's down to 2 minutes. And the Broken Mastery buff used to be, I think, 300 and something rating, and now it's 100. So for raids, it doesn't seem busted. Also, when you zone into an instance, it removes your buffs now as well. So before you're like, oh, I'll go out into the world and get like my 5 stack, then go into a raid encounter.
Yeah, get summoned or something before you're about to pull,
Yeah, that's gone.
Yeah, that was really strong. I was really excited for that because I thought this would be really cool to get your flesh craft up, and like even in Mythic Plus it was really good because you'd get 342 mastery for 100% uptime in a dungeon, plus 2% agility, extra armor, heal backs and stuff, and it was really, really strong. But then they nerfed it so that if you die, then you lose it, and then obviously all those additional nerfs that you've just mentioned there, or like the fact that it don't work in that manner. So, and then it was basically dead in raid, like you're saying, so you can't really use it in raid. But what about you, Snupy? What about in arena? Like, what's looking really strong, covenant wise and stuff?
Yeah, so I think like the best covenant is probably, or there's two, like Knifein and Curian are both looking really good. Necrolord, I think it's nice if you do like a bleed build, but from what I've seen, it's gonna be like a bite situation mainly.
You just love biting, man. You should be Venthia because you're just like a little vampire just running around biting everything.
Venthir is so bad for PP. I think it's garbage, sadly. But
is that because of the stun, or like
You
It
can't
just seems
stand
like it just seems like not very like impactful. Like evil, like it builds up, and then people will know it's gonna build up. So it's like, oh, this
Does it
guy's
glow
about
red?
to, yeah, and like it's like the longer it's on, the more it does, right? I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
so it's very like predictable. You can kind of like know easily like what I'm gonna do. Like if I use it, maybe you can bait cooldown, so you use it and then you pretend you're gonna do big damage and you don't. So maybe force some defensives. But in general, I think the like bite build is the best. Wait, is it conduits and legendaries? Yeah, we're gonna talk about now.
Well, yeah, all that kind of stuff. Like, just a
Yeah.
build in general. Like, is there a talent pool with a certain legendary, with a certain Covenant Soulbind situation that you're just like, oh my god, this is pumping.
Yeah. So it's like the Fearful Symmetry one, which gives you now it's like 2 comp points, the next 2 finisher moves after using Fury. That one's really good. So like that paired with Berserk, and then I'd say like either Kyrian or Knife. You know, you can do like so the open will be like a Rake Rip Frenzy, and then you Berserk Fury, and then you bite, and then shred, and then bite, and shred and bite. Um, so yeah, I'd
Mm.
say the bite build with like also then the bite conduit. There's like one that gives you 2% more damage on bite per bleed.
Yeah.
So like if you pair those things together, you can definitely do a lot of damage. But then again, after the like energy berserk nerf, it kind of ruins it because you gotta wait for energy between the bites, which feels really bad. So I'm kind of sad about that thing, to be honest.
Okay, so you're kind of looking at like Night Fae, potentially Kyrian. As things stand now, obviously anything could change. We could actually get buffs or nerfs tonight. Actually, it is patch day for beta, so we'll see what happens later tonight. But so we're looking at Night Fae Kyrian maybe for PvP, for PvE. I mean, for raiding and stuff. You guys were kind of alluding a bit to Necrolord, but then you've kind of like gone back on it a bit. Where are you guys at? What would you kind of lock? If somebody came to you and said, "Hey, what Covenant should I go for rating in Mythic Plus?" What would you guys say?
Well, Mythic
I
Plus.
would say
Go
Yeah,
ahead, go ahead.
yeah. Go ahead, Robo, and Mason, you jump.
for rating, I think Night Phase pretty much locked in, unless we're like the worst damage spec and they fix Kyrian so it works with pets and everything. In which case, you take Kyrian so you can steal the top DPS's damage and you look a little bit better.
Okay, so we are actually going full simp. Yeah, so yeah, Kyrian is bugged for anyone that doesn't know. Like you said, it doesn't interact with doesn't interact with pets. I think it also has some issues with it's not actually giving the correct like damage numbers and stuff. I believe as well, and I know that it's having some issues.
So we don't know what it's actually doing or what it's not.
I
So it's
don't
not
think it's actually. What's the issue with it, Robo? You'll know rather than me guessing.
Okay, so like a lot of specs, it's broken, like Windwalker Monk, the clones and stuff that do like 60% of the monk's damage during its giga cooldowns. Doesn't count any of that. Some trinkets don't work correctly. I don't think it replicates it. It's also like instead of just making it both players do 20% more damage, it's a build a spender type thing. So you build a buff on the other player and then they have to spend it. So it's essentially capped at, I think, 35 to 40% of over 20 seconds of the lowest player's damage one way. So there's implementation issues with that. I think they're just trying to stop people from doing funnel damage like sub rogue, because you could get one person doing giga AoE and one person doing single target. So that's why they implemented the system. But then it just creates so many other problems. They should just make it a flat 20% damage buff for both players.
Yep. Rather than this like bubble thing that you're trying to, because it actually works very simplistically. Like when you think about it, you just click it and you press your rotation, right?
Exactly.
But when you try and explain to somebody what the Kyrian buff does, it a lot of people just don't get it straight away because it's like, oh well, you basically you and a friend, you both increase each other's damage, but like pets don't work, and then there's like a bubble that you're building towards, and you gotta do damage to spend that extra damage, and like it's just a weird way to kind of get your head around it. But yeah, what were you gonna say, Maystine? You're gonna say about Mythic Plus.
Mythic
What do you
Plus.
think is doing well?
So right now, if nothing changes, I will go Venthyr for sure because it's a really strong cooldown. Like because you can set up pools around it, and it's by far the best right now.
Yeah, if your tank is playing around you, I think that would be very, very strong. Yeah.
Yeah, and Necrolord has little to no impact. Plus, Night Phase also meh, and Kyrian is a bit buggy.
Well, for all the casuals out there, we gotta, decide on something that, balanced for people who are not focused on one thing or the other. Obviously, I know Snuppy's only gonna be doing arenas, and some of us might be doing a bit of both.
I mean, I will do both. I will do both.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your
Probably.
weekly cap doesn't really count.
No, I think
Doesn't
if
it?
you go Night Fae, like Night Fae is a really good all rounder, especially if you want to play multiple different specs. If you want to do a bit of healing, bit of tanking, whatever, and you want to dabble in a bunch of different content, I think Night Fae seems like a pretty good option. Kyrian's a good one as well. I could see Kyrian being pretty strong in Iron Mythic Plus eventually. Though I think they actually changed the defensive, but yeah. Oh, by the way, guys, thank you for these donations coming in. Paul, I see you coming in with a 5. Thank you to Bailey for the 6 and Sin for the 13. Appreciate that, guys. That will be going to Panthera to support, the conservation of wild cats. So thank you, guys. But yeah, I wanted to. So one big question before we go into like a bit of a Q&A section. So like I guess the final question before Q&A is community perception. Everyone seems to be, with a butt of many jokes. I get linked all kinds of clips of, oh, hey, guess what Limit Max said about Feral? Guess what Scribe said about Feral? Like, guess what every Bellula, like, what do you guys think about this? And I'm just like, okay, like, it's, whatever. But what do you guys think about the community perception and what we could do? I mean, you look at somebody like Maystine here, he's getting 6.4K rated IO, really competing with the big boys when it comes to pushing Mythic Plus and showing that, hey, there is space for us. Like, we get laughed at, but Maystine was higher rated than, I think, like, the highest Frost DK or the highest Unholy DK or something like that, where, like, but nobody laughs at DKs. So why does no one laugh at DKs, but they laugh at Ferals even though Feral's higher rated? And, I mean, like I say, Feral's been being played in the AWC. Why are we still a laughing stock? Why are we still memed on? And what can we do to improve that going into Shadowlands?
I always described it as the fun rogue, but I guess like people just don't think ferals are that serious. It's just a general perception, but everyone just believes the people who put up the propaganda videos. Like I do propaganda videos for survival hunters, and now so like people just love survival hunters. But I mean, I love what you said before. Like you made a comment like having to convince your GM to play like you play feral. I had to literally convince my GM to let me play feral.
There you go.
Halfway through an X-Pack after playing a Demon Hunter and a BM Hunter. I'm like, all right. He was like, well, if you're DPS and you're not parsing, I have to sit you. Well, of course, I parsed and I was topping the meters, so he didn't sit me.
Yeah. So if you can perform, then you're all right. But it does feel like you have to convince people that it's okay to bring you, which is a weird place to be in. But what about you guys?
I mean, the little PV I've done, I kind of got like, just in the raid. I don't know why. So for me, it hasn't been a problem too much, but I have like tried joining, pugs and, they invite me and then it's oh, you're feral and then they kick me. I haven't like probably at least 10 times last season. So I definitely know the pain. And I think in general, I feel like feral's just been a meme for so long that we're going to continue to be a meme in a lot of people's eyes. Pretty much, even if we're really good, like I think it's just like for example, last season, like in PP we're super strong, but if you like the general WoW population, like in LFG, still kind of I think look down on ferals. Like even like I try to pug sometimes on stream, like doing like trying to help LFG to like 2K or whatever, and sometimes they just don't invite me when I'm I'm okay. I'm not trying to like let's say if I'm like 2.8 CR and they're 2K, they won't invite me. And I don't know.
Does it hurt? Does it sting?
A little bit.
A
little bit.
There you go. Hey man, don't worry. If you ever want to do any keys in Shadowlands, you give me a whisper, man. Sit on the bench together, all right? Now we should do some though, dude, for sure. We're both on EU, so we should jump.
Yeah,
in.
we should.
Sure. But what about you, Robo? Oh yeah. You can boost me to 3K, yeah. Macy and Robo, what do you guys think about like the perception?
Well, I think unless you are trying to do top first raiding or the best keys plus, the class does not matter. It's a bit sad that the community think Feral Druid is really bad, which isn't. And it's really hard to make them change their mind about that.
Yeah. You took the words out of my mouth. I absolutely agree with
Like you
that
really
perfectly.
don't need to play the best class to do well.
One way I put it is I feel like a lot of people reach their own personal skill cap before they like reach the spec skill cap. You know what I mean? Like before the spec, like some people are limited by their spec, right? Like some people are better, and if they played a meta spec, they would go like they would outperform or whatever, right? But like some people, like not to be like mean or anything, but they'll be doing like a 15 key and they're like, oh, we need full meta, and it's like, no, like you can do it, like you're struggling, like the reason you're depleting your 15 key is because you or somebody in your group is not playing the way they should be, not because of the specs that you have involved. So I definitely think it's that people reach their own skill cap before they reach spec skill cap, because like I'm saying, I mean, Mason, you got up to 6.4k on Feral in Mythic Plus, like people, like it's possible, you know, but how many Ferals are there up there, you know what I mean? So I definitely agree with you as well with like, oh sorry, go on.
Knowledge of dungeon, understanding everything. It's less about the class. Like
Yeah,
I think people forget that a lot.
yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Robo. I feel like you want to jump in on something.
Yeah, I actually think like the last 2 years, Legion and BFA for raiding has been fine for Feral. Like in terms of whether I'm broad or not, the biggest impact isn't really is Feral good. Is it a range comp versus melee comp, and do we need burst for certain encounters? But apart from that, I don't feel like I feel like Feral at that level, which it's not like world first, but it's like still pretty high up there. It's based on what the rating counter needs, and when I get benched, like other DPS classes with similar profiles, like that are bad for that encounter, will also get benched. So it's not limited to Feral. I think the range versus melee thing is even stronger indicator than being Feral versus Rogue versus Rep Paladin type thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it seems like you guys have all kind of said like there's a problem with the community and like why is it here kind of thing. Like none of you guys seem to feel the need for like the negative community perception beyond the point of it's there because it kind of is there, and that's just like the way of it. Do you think there's anything that could occur to change the community perception? I mean, I know in Blizzard's eyes, Ian has historically said that if a spec is having an issue, god damn it, Soul, what have you done?
I hate my life.
This is why we can't have nice talk shows, guys. This. I showed up on. Oh, I don't even want to change my display just in case. You guys can click that link. It's
Don't click the link.
if you
I don't wanna
subscribe for our
click this link,
monthly
it's link.
content, you can get more great pictures like that. No, but I think Ian has historically come out and said that if they want like if they buff a spec, like they will just buff a spec massively, like way more than it statistically needs, just so that people see how good it is, so that then that negative perception fades away. Do you think that is what Feral needs, or do you think there's another answer to kind of like clear and expel this perception? Anyone have any ideas?
About perception, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know really.
When did it
I don't
start
know.
to be like that?
When did it
Like-
start?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know. I think it's been this way for a while now. I think
Yeah.
I think it's been that way for a while now. I think in Legion we had some positive kind of like positivity from the community, and then I think going into like the whole of BFA, I think when we started BFA, we didn't have Primal Wrath. So like we were actually under healers in Mythic Plus, and when it came to raiding, we were still pretty bad. So I think the beginning of BFA it was horrendous for us because I remember being absolutely clowned on. Luckily,
Did we ever go into blood talents a bit here?
sorry,
I don't think we talked about blood talents specifically. Like, did you guys like the old blood talents or the new blood talents?
I'll be
I like
honest.
I
Oh,
like
sorry,
the
go
old
on.
one.
I like the old one. Looking at it, like because the new one just doesn't really work in Mythic Plus, and then it's too easy when it comes to the raid. So like the old one, I was actually okay with. I didn't mind it too much.
I just want my free predatory swiftness heals in my rotation again, so I can do some giga healing.
Giga.
It's good for your healers too, man. That's what I miss too. But you were in control. You were in control of the old Blood Talons, and that there was a little bit of skill element because you chose what to buff with your abilities, and you learn accordingly over time. Now it's just passive, and the rotation will never change if you use Blood Talons. It's triple abilities don't double up, and bada bing, bada boom, free DPS.
Bada bing, bada boom, indeed. Okay, yeah. So really, you guys don't really have anything that you think could fix a community perception. You don't have any.
Besides us, no. Like it's the streamers and the people who play it that really make people love Feral. And like I'm sure you guys get it all the time. Snupy and Usai, when people see you play or having a good time as Feral, people are like, "Dude, I want to try playing a Feral, or I'm a level of Feral."
And then I tell them, "Don't."
No,
I say, "Don't do it."
You're part of the problem here.
Dude, I have multiple clips where I'm just like, "Hey, Sai, should I play Feral?" And I'm like, "No, you shouldn't, unless you really, really want to." And then maybe enjoy.
So let me tell you my speech for demo. Like, I love playing demo. It's my guilty pleasure for my warlock. And like, I tell them like, for PvP, demo is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's eye candy. It's cool. But is it good? No, oh God, no. But it's fun and it's enjoyable. Can you still perform and do really well? Because I was playing demo in M+ for the past 6 months, and it was so much fun. And it was actually doing it's really memey. Actually, you can do like 200,000 DPS if you get things right. Well, back in M+.
Well, I know Sheller absolutely pumps on. I think he plays demo because I watch all his imps running around, and he absolutely pumps on that. Like,
but it has the same perception as Feral. It does.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe.
But like even for PvP, it's a meme, but I don't think Feral is in that meme status though, where people think it's just bad. It's actually good and capable of doing well. Demo is one of those PvP classes right now where it's like it's both bad and not good, and not it's like it'll never perform well.
Well, like I said, right, the highest rated Feral Druid of Season 4, the end of BFA, highest rated Feral Druid, Maystine, was, dude, we got a kiss at the end of this call, man. I keep bigging you up, Maystine. But like the highest rated Feral Druid was higher than the highest rated DK for DPS, I believe. I will have to double check that, but I swear that's the case. Or for one of the DPS, but like I think Unholy or whatever. But I think because Unholy got played in tournaments, obviously because it does massive AoE damage, nobody makes fun of it. But Unholy was only good in like 15 keys, 18 keys, max of like, low 20s. You wouldn't necessarily take an Unholy DK to a 28 key, a 29 key or whatever, but nobody memes on DK. So I think it really is just a case of we've drawn the short straw. Like even Survival Hunter doesn't get memed on that bad comparable to Feral Druid. So I think it is literally a case, chat, of we drew the short straw for now. And we'll see if something kind of changes it. But Soullscape, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's I think a lot of streamers come out and they make their jokes about Feral, not because they particularly care. It's not supposed to be malicious. They're just trying to hype up chat. They're just trying to pick a target and have some fun. It's not a malicious thing, and I genuinely don't think that it's like
my guild because I am the target.
Dude, I used to get made fun of by guildies when I was beating them on DPS, and then they'd make fun of me for being a Feral. It's whatever. Like, you just got to roll with the punches, and at the end of the day, you got to play the spec that you enjoy the most, and just try and squeeze everything out of it, And we've got a bunch of great gentlemen in the call here today that are doing just that. But chat, that kind of wraps up like most of the question segments. Do you guys have any questions for any of these lovely gentlemen here in chat, or general questions for the whole team? Please start filling those in, and whilst you guys are asking these questions, just at me in chat, by the way, just at me. And Soullscape, if you have any guys from your chat that have any good questions and you want to throw them into the fold, just please do. But whilst chat's kind of doing that, I wanted to ask you guys, what's your favorite thing going about Feral Druid going into Shadowlands? Is there anything that you guys are excited about? Snupy, starting with you, and then we'll work around.
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing just like cosmetic wise, being able to use the the artifact forms at all times without having weapons equipped or like the actual daggers equipped is huge. Gameplay wise, I think like, I mean, I've been kind of caught up in this, but like the whole the Berserk energy thing does bother me quite a bit. I think if they remove that, and yeah, we're gonna be fine. And like bite build will be super fun for PP. I think either way we're gonna be good in PP though, and yeah, I can't wait actually.
Yeah,
Personally,
good stuff.
I think it's gonna be good. Yeah.
Excited to play dress up then, yeah? What about you, Robo?
I just really want to put Sunfire on a lot of mobs because it's just so strong at the moment. Then I can have my Rake, my Moonfire, my Sunfire, my Rip, and my Thrash. Oh, five dots.
Hey, Robo, there's
At the
a
same time.
spec you should try, man. It's called Balance.
Pumpkin.
You should check it
Yeah,
out,
but
dude.
they
It
don't
has
have Rake.
all of those things you just said, plus
It doesn't have
more.
Rake and Rip.
True. What about you, Soul?
Well, I mean, if anyone's new to my channel, all I do is my main thing is world PvP. That's what I'm mostly doing all the time. Is just trying to solo as many people as I can for PvP. Like Snupy, you're so geared, you can just jump out there and probably take on 5 men. But
Maybe.
it's a lot of fun. So I play Feral and I advertise it as the live lord of outdoor content. Like you have Mass Entangle, you have Ursul's Vortex, you have so much healing, and that's why I play it. Just you're never gonna die if you don't want to. When you're out going for the, I don't know if the bounty system's actually gonna be in the game because I love they had a bounty system in BFA, the factionless dagger. It was like so many activities to do. I don't think they're gonna have that right away, but hopefully that all comes back. But being a Feral Druid for that kind of content, it's a lot of fun. That was my first class when I was a kid. When I was 13 years old, I like being a druid. it's simple. It's like when you don't do things because they're good or bad. I play it because it's fun at the end of the day.
Point, there you go.
True.
It's a game after all. What about you, Maystine? Anything you're excited for?
Well, from a Mythic Plus perspective, I'm really happy. Keep Primawrath not uncapped.
Well, don't say it, man. They're gonna nerf it now, dude. Quiet.
Nah, they won't.
Yeah, so you're just excited about Primal Wrath and everything?
Yeah, because so many classes got, their RE cap to 5, 8 targets.
Yeah.
Maybe in MDI, you can see Feral Druid.
That would be nice. That'd be nice.
Those big pools, who knows?
We'll see. I mean, personally, I think like they're going to be range classes that end up like just bringing a bunch of AoE. But if we can rival them in damage, like maybe like because we bring more utility as well than most of the range classes in terms of like interrupts and stuns and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that would be really cool if we saw us in MDI. That would be fantastic. Right. Okay, so there's a few things that the guys are looking forward to, chat. But if we're looking at some of your questions now, I mean, okay, so what do we got? With the barbershop change, what is the best feral form for optimal DPS? I personally really like the Nature's Fury one. Nature's Fury in green because you look like a wooden druid, and I like that one.
Do you know what it's like to give people bad news every time they ask you, can you get that sparkly cat form still? I'm like, no, I'm sorry.
You know what they
Yeah.
say about wooden cats, Si?
What do they say?
It wouldn't work. Sorry, I said that wrong. It wouldn't work.
Sorry, I just blacked out for a second. Fantastic. Yeah. I thought I was supposed to make the dad jokes. Dad jokes, but Robo, thank you for backing me up on that one. Yeah, I don't know. I think Nature's Fury is cool. You can't get the Mage Tower ones anymore, chat. But I mean, hey, I don't like the really flashy ones. Yeah, like the thing is,
I think the tree one is like the highest detailed one. It looks very, very nice when you zoom in on it.
Absolutely. And you spend a lot of time doing that when you're running laps in Ouroboros because no one's let you raid with them tonight. Banana Kid, you're saying, what legendaries for Feral 50-50 PvP PvE splits? I mean, I personally would say if you're going PvP and PvE, I think Apex Predator is a really good legendary. And if you go into details and you go into click on your damage, you go into auras, you can actually track how many procs you're getting in a dungeon, so you can actually weigh up how much damage you're gaining from that legendary. I think it's really good because you can mass AoE, and like Maystine's saying here, if Primal Wrath is uncapped, the more things that are hit from your Primal Wrath, the more ferocious bites you get. And you could literally be in a situation in Mythic Plus where you are Primal Wrathing, ferocious biting, just on repeat, more or less with a little bit of filler. And you have really good prio target damage, which is always a big benefit in Mythic Plus. So I personally think that's a good one. What do you guys think? You guys agree, or you guys think?
I think Fearful Symmetry is going to be good in both.
Yeah.
But honestly, like I haven't really tried all of them. So, but Fearful Symmetry to me is like I mean, it's just more comp points, right? So
Yeah.
can't really go wrong with that.
Can't complain.
No.
I think Cat Eye Curio is going to be a really good one if you want to raid PvP and Mythic Plus, because it's not the best in any one situation, I don't feel, but it's a really good all-rounder where you can go into any type of content, play with any build, and it's still going to just perform. It's a little bit boring, I guess, but I think it's going to perform.
Yeah, I think Cat Eye Curio it's very cheap as well because it's in a ring socket. So you're basically just using it for the effect, not for the stats. So even if you get it at base, you have the effect, and then for more specialized content where you want a higher item level helm or shoulder piece, depending on which, or waist piece that gives you more stats, depending on what you actually want to do for that specific content, you can pick that up. So you can easily get like that as a general legendary, and then fill depending on what you lean more towards.
Yeah, there you go. So there's a couple options there when it comes to PvP. PvE, I think, Fearful Symmetry, Apex Pred, probably Cat Eye Curio is a good all-rounder, so a few options there. I think hopefully that helps there, Banana. You guys got any questions that are jumping out at you that you want to answer? What brought all of you to play Feral? Funnily enough, I wanted to do damage on a Druid spec. Joke's on me, right? I think Robo is actually a cat in real life, as you can see. So I think he was just born into it, right?
Yeah, actually, under this mask is my face full of whiskers, so I don't want to scare people. That's why I have to wear the mask.
Under the tiger mask is just a tiger face. Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't shaved my whiskers for a while, so I gotta just leave it.
What are everyone's alts? I have a theory there's a type of player that's addicted to off meta. What are you guys alting? What about you, Snupy? Like, we'll go around again.
I mean, I'd say I have 0 ults right now. I have like
druids, 5 druids.
5 druids. Yeah,
I mean,
good call.
yeah. I mean, I had 3 druids with like pretty much bis gear for PP. Yeah, last season. So I was just playing like 3 druids. And yeah, I also have like rogues. I mean, I was sub rogue and stuff, but they have terrible gear. So it's like once a month, log on, lose a game, and log off.
Yeah, sounds good. Kind of sounds
Yeah.
like me in League of Legends, actually. Log on, lose a game. All right, I'm done for a month. Go next. What about you, Robo?
I have a second druid now, just because I'm not 100% sure how the covenant system is going to work out, and then a rogue, and then that's it. I'm too casual to have more than that.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. What are you playing on your rogue? What spec do you think? We'll wait and see.
I've been playing outlaw because button mashing, but I can play all 3, so it's okay.
And many talents, good stuff. What about you, Soullscape?
So I'm currently for Shadowlands. I'll be mythic rating cutting edge with my Affliction Warlock, and then planning to sneak my Feral in for 9.2 and above. But I only doing 2 alts, so Affliction Warlock and then my Survival Hunter. I now make fun of MM Hunters because they're too Chad.
Oh yeah, sounds good. What about you, Maystine? You alt anything?
Yeah. So in BFA, I was playing Arms Warrior because I wanted to play a class with a strong bleed, you know. And Shadowland, I don't know yet. Probably gonna play the best one. So I don't know for sure.
Oh, as in like just play the best, like meta spec, whatever.
Like the best meta spec, yeah, for me.
DPS, or because I know you do a lot of tanking as well. Or is this like you're gonna alt a DPS?
Yeah, DPS and tanking. I like to do both.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I know we did a dungeon together, and you were tanking, and you were it was a freehold, and you were pulling all the yellow mobs into me, like perfect timing. Honestly,
Yeah.
if a tank pulls around a feral, they can actually do some real solid damage. So, yeah, we could definitely do some keys in Shadowlands as well, man. You know how to do it. But okay, cool. Yeah, so we got some rogues, we got some multiple druids. I don't know if I might make like a second druid or something. I don't think I'm gonna bring like 4 druids in chat, and I definitely don't advise you guys to play multiple druids. The reason why somebody like Robo, for example, might be playing multiple feral druids is because he's a big boy, but if it's not always like required, you know. So I think don't
One for each
one for each covenant. Don't get scared like you're gonna have to if you want to play in any like any way, right? Don't worry about like needing it being a requirement, but yeah, I personally, I didn't say me. I'm gonna be playing Dude, I'm actually the king of Scuff. Actually, I'm gonna be playing Feral as my main. Obviously, I'm gonna dispel any rumors. A lot of people. I played Sub Rogue for one dungeon, and then like just from there, it was thrown into the Dream Grove. Oh, Size re-rolled to Sub Rogue now. Like he's ditched Feral. Like all that kind of stuff. And like people come into my chat still and say, "Hey, have you gone sub main?" I'm going sub as an alt. I'm also going to go Windwalker, Enhance, and Survival Hunter. So like literally the epitome of
really
Scuff.
upset.
What was that, Maystine?
No, I just said that really off meta class.
Well, I just enjoy those specs, man. I just enjoy the specs. Like, I think I'm gonna play Sub Rogue because I enjoy Sub Rogue. So, like, it shows I am interested in some form of meta. But yeah, I'll be jumping on that a little bit. Have you any of you ever wanted to play another class? I mean, I guess that's kind of answered in the fact that we're gonna have some alts. Baseman. Everyone that plays Feral does not only enjoy the playstyle but also the story. Yeah, I mean, it depends what attracts you to play the game, but I mean, no one's playing Feral because it's like of the people. I mean, you guys probably agree. People playing Feral because they enjoy it rather than because of it being like super powerful. 'Cause it isn't. So yeah, probably a bit to do.
You take that back.
Yeah. Sorry, dude. Hey,
I
saw you-
definitely feel super powerful sometimes.
Yeah. When's that?
Yeah, definitely. Like some rating counters are just like busted for Feral. Like Jaina was very good for Feral.
Yeah.
Ashara. I'm trying to think
Ashara
like
was pretty good.
Council. Queen's Court, sorry.
Council was. Oh yeah, sorry. Queen's Court was actually. Dude, I swear.
I think I played Moonkin for that though, because it's just easier mechanically.
He played what, Moonkin? Yeah, it is a lot better mechanically, definitely. I swear 8.2 Feral Druid was actually like sleeper OP. Like I remember being in Mythic Plus, there was not a single spec that I feared. There was nothing that I was worried about having to compete with, and when it came to like player on player, I felt like it came down to the individual. If that player was on a meta spec and they were better than me, then they'd win. But if like they weren't, like I could outperform them. And I swear 8.2 we were actually strong. When corruption came in and everybody scaled out of control, there was no way that like we were going to compete because I just don't think we scale that well. But Trey saying, do bleeds from trinkets benefit from the ferocious bite conduit? No, I think. I mean, you guys. I don't think so. I think it's only cat form bleeds. Correct.
Should be correct.
Yeah, I think it's only cat form induced.
It's Rake, Rip, Thrash, and Feral Frenzy.
Yeah. Thoughts on PvP gearing in Shadowlands? Snupy, you could probably take that away. I see you opening your mouth there. You ready?
Yeah. So they did make it so you can pretty much get like BIS gear now from the vendors. I don't really know. I think they're gonna be nerfing like the new PV trinkets. Like you have dress and stuff. Or like a new Dressagath, and you have a lot of really broken trinkets. But as far as I know, they're gonna get nerfed. So considering that, you can pretty much just gear through the vendors. You might be able to like get like if you want, verse the main stat. Let's say a piece has way like maybe 80-20%. I don't know, or 70-30 verse. You might want to go do the boss in the raid or whatever. But that's like a small upgrade. So I think you can generally just get Biscare from PvP and then get small upgrades through through PvE if you want to. So like if you really want to optimize, I think you're better off like playing everything. But like just doing arena should be just fine. I'm pretty sure, but I don't really know.
The fact that you only get one weekly chest now as well makes it easier for PvPers because you don't feel forced to have to go and do Mythic Plus if unless it's like some god tier trinket or something from Mythic Plus or whatever. It means that you don't necessarily have to go and do that. So that means you don't have to do a weekly key on each of your characters. So that's kind of nice in that regard. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean like okay, one more thing like because
go on.
now the vendors in the start were pretty bad because it was like the vendors but still the kind of the same gear that it was in BFA. But now they added like Versa Haste and Versa Master, I believe. Like they pretty much have Versa on every single piece. So that's the main thing. Because in PP, you pretty much want Versa no matter what spec and what class you are. So yeah, just get all the Versa pieces and you'll be pretty much BIS, and then maybe like some PV on the side. But yeah, just pick up the Versa and you should be good. Verse Haste and Verse Mastery for Feral. I think it's the best.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, cool. Banana, you said, do you see a viable spot for Heart of the Wild talent, legendary? Yeah, in Torghast. Torghast is gonna be great. Right, chat. I think that pretty much ends up at like the 2 hour mark. That's probably, you know, that's probably good there for today. But I really enjoyed this conversation. I thought this was really cool. Soulscape, I'm glad that you were able to jump in last minute. I'm sorry I forgot about you, buddy. It was nothing
Oh, you're
personal.
okay.
Nothing personal, dude. I'm glad you were able to make it. And to all you guys, Robo, I really appreciate you waking up like super early in Australia to be here for this as well. And yeah, this was really cool. Chat, I hope that you really enjoyed it. Last minute stuff like starting with you, Snoopy, and we'll work around. Anything that you kind of want to say to chat, anything that you want to, like, if you want to advertise your Twitch, your Twitter, whatever, like, go for it. If anything you want to say, or like just kind of give them words of wisdom going into Shadowlands, whatever it be, go for it.
Yeah, I think Blizzard needs to make Bash baseline, and that's pretty much it. I don't like. I mean, Snoopy on Twitter and Twitch, but I think Bash baseline would be very good because then we can play Heart and Bash. So that's all I really want. And
I'll take it.
and revert the Berserk nerf.
Okay.
That's my final words.
Yeah. What about you,
Jason?
Robo?
My advice is just have fun. Play with people you like playing with, and you'll enjoy the game a lot more regardless of what spec you're playing. I think that's the most important thing for Shadowlands, because you're going to be, if you're a turbo nerd like some of us, you're going to be doing some 18-hour shenanigans at the start of the expansion, just grinding everything out. And
Only 18 hours, you casual, dude. Why not
18 hours back to
24?
back.
Yeah.
Well, you need to sleep sometimes so you can actually live.
True.
Yeah, and I think that's actually gonna be what makes it fun for you, playing with people you like. That's like not really spec specific, but I hope that advice helps.
Yeah, good stuff. What about you, Soulscape?
So one of the biggest questions I always get is, and this obviously applies to Feral, is what's the fastest and best way to gear up? And I always say, like, if you can, just do, spam M plus. Obviously, since we're Feral Druids, it's an issue. To people in chat, do not be afraid to make your own key and roll it up. Obviously, if you're going to try, obviously Raider IO is a thing. These guys wouldn't be here if Raider IO wasn't a thing, but they're great ferals. But if you're trying to queue for 15, 14 keys and, you don't have the IO people, doesn't matter what class you're, they're not going to invite you. Don't be afraid to make your own key and, form your own group and then push it up. And that way you just keep doing keys yourself. That's what I did for my gear and my alts, because I couldn't get invited either. Just got my own key going, form a party, and just keep going with it. And you're going to get gear pretty fast. That's pretty much the best way to do it.
Yeah, Maystine, what about you, dude?
All I'm gonna say is soon. The word soon. It will answer a lot of people asking me when I'm gonna start streaming.
Would you like a trademark after that as well?
Yeah, soon TM.
Soon TM. So yeah, so to answer everyone, because I have a lot of questions, I'm gonna start streaming when I have my better internet. So soon.
That'll be
Like
really.
Shadowlands.
I'm really looking forward to that, dude. I really, because like when I found out that the reason that you weren't streaming wasn't because you didn't want to, but because you like physically can't. I was like, man, I really hope that he can get that sorted, because that'll be really cool to see you take off with that. I know you'll get a big following immediately because there are a lot of people after you. So yeah, looking forward to that. And yeah, that's really cool, guys. Obviously, guys, check out Snoopy and Soulscape on Twitch. I've linked their things in the bio. Unfortunately, Robo and Macy don't stream at the minute. If you guys do have any personal stuff that you do want people to follow you on, I know Macy, you've got your Twitter there. Robo, you don't really like have anything at the minute, but if at any point you do, feel free to kind of throw it in the chat. And one question I couldn't help but answer is, you said, do you think that Soda Poppin is a good feral? Soda Poppin is a good feral, but I'll 1v1 him any day. Please clip it, ship it to him, make sure he knows. Bring it on, Soda. No, thank you very much, chat. I really appreciate it. Once again, thank you for the donations in chat as well. As I've mentioned, all those donations will go in to Panthera, which is a charity and an organization that helps protect endangered like large wild cats and stuff, which as Feral Druid mains, that's what we really want to be doing. We want to be protecting Feral Druid in game and in real life. So thank you guys for those donations. I do really appreciate it. Navalax coming in with the 4 as well, and Save the Cats coming in with 5 as well at the end there. Thank you for that, guys. Thank you for the follows that have come through as well. And yeah, excellent. Well, thank you to the guests, Snupy, Robo, Soullscape, and Maystine. Thank you very much for being on, guys. Go enjoy your evenings and your afternoon. And hopefully, maybe we'll have another one soon. And maybe you guys might want to be on again. But thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Excellent.
Nice talk. It was
Alright,
good to
thanks,
kind of get
guys.
some different perspectives on everything.
Absolutely.
Mythic Plus rated PP.
Oh, Soullscape, thank you as well for the 6, dude. I appreciate you, man. I'll make sure they get that. I'm gonna be making my own donation as well on top of what we have here today. I'm gonna definitely buff that up a bit. That'll be something that will continue going forward. But yeah, yeah. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for being here, chat. Thanks for being around. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Expect another episode, an episode 2 in the future, probably in a couple weeks, and we'll have a new topic. Check me out on Twitter and check out my Discord and stuff as well if you guys want to kind of stay tuned on that. And as I said, you can check out these guys' socials as well. But yeah, thanks for being here, gentlemen. I'll see you again. All right.
Cheerio.